listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. You're listening to CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living. To learn more about who we are, what we do, and how we do it, call toll-free 1-866-928-3310, and we'll send you out a no-obligation information kit absolutely free. 866-928-3310. The CFRN Emini Futures Cast is now on Stitcher. Listen to us on your iPhone, Android phones, BlackBerry, and WebOS phones. Stitcher is smart radio for your phone. Find it in your app store or at Stitcher.com. Stitcher Smart Radio, the smarter way to listen to radio.
Are you ready, Steve? Andy? Yeah! Bert? Well, all right, fellas. Let's go!
You're listening to CFRN, the Christian Finance Radio Network.
Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/CFRN. Over 85,000 titles. Choose from mystery, romance, religion, science, technology, business, New York Times bestsellers, even children's books. You name it, Audible has it. With 85,000 titles to choose from, you're sure to find the perfect audiobook for yourself or to give as a gift, and it's absolutely free. Just point your browser to audibletrial.com/CFRN. That's audibletrial.com/CFRN. And become a part of the audiobook revolution by downloading your free audiobook today. audibletrial.com/CFRN.
Hey, trader, want to get rich quick? Well, good luck with that. If, on the other hand, you actually want to learn how to trade, the place to be is www.cfrn.net. Tune in Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern for our daily devotional, and then spend the next 3 hours learning how it's done from professional traders who actually trade for a living. That's www.cfrn.net. Every trading day from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern. CFRN, a community of believers who trade for a living.
Good afternoon, traders, and welcome back to the CFRN Emini Futures Cast. This is the daily broadcast of Indeterminate Length, where we discuss all things Emini, along with some really big ideas on the finer points of trading gold, bonds, crude, sugar, the euro, and even T-bills. Joining us today from our studios in Boston, Mr. Michael Borth. From our trading desk in Chicago, Mr. Burton Schlichter. Now, to get things started, let's go to our host and founder in Studio A, overlooking South Mountain, America's largest city park. Here's Dwayne.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. Today is Friday, and the crowd went wild. 9th day of June, 2017. What a bumpy audio start that was. We just had to rewind it and take another run at it. But hey, I'm glad you're here. If you are returning, welcome back. If you're here for the first time, a very special welcome to you. We're glad to have you with us. We are the show about all things E-mini. We're going to start out by taking a quick look at the cash markets around the world and see just how many records have we broken today. Russell 2000 hit a record high, and of course we had Comey's testimony, and while many thought that would weigh negative on the markets, not so much. Now, if you can't see the chart I have up, which by the way is still the June contract, just wanted to show you what the zones looked like on the old contract. We had a gap lower open last night on June, but June's about, it's done. Yesterday was the official rollover day, but we don't roll over until Friday morning typically, when volume in the new contract exceeds the volume in the old contract. Okay? All right. Now, to see the chart, if you can't, just go to our homepage at cfrn.net. On the right-hand side of the page, click the big microphone, follow the instructions. You'll be registered all the way through the end of the month. You'll be able to join each following day with one-click access. You get an email. It'll say, when you're ready to join the show, click here. The other option is to go to youtube.com/CFRN. And you'll see a little red button there in the upper left that says live. If you click that, you'll be live and you'll be able to see the chart. Now, while we're on the show today, John will be joining us. Jason Hommel, who was with us last Friday, he's going to come back today at the top of the hour. So we look forward to that. And Michael will be in here in just a second and give us a recap of everything that happened today in the live training room. I am making sure that everything is live over YouTube land as it should be. And yep, everything's up and running. So those cash numbers that I promised you, let's take a quick peek and see where we are. Okay, the Dow is currently up 104 points. It's almost half of 1%. NASDAQ is down 8. S&P 500 is up 10. And the Russell 2000 is up 17. That's over it's almost 1.25%. In the commodity basket, crude oil is up 54 cents, trading 46.18. Gold, on the other hand, is down $9.80, trading $12.69.60. In the European markets, it's green wall to wall. The FTSE up 77 points, the DAX up 102 points, and the CAC up 35 points. In the Asian markets, we're mixed there, with the Nikkei closing up 104 points. That's over half of 1%. Shanghai closed up 8.5, and the Hang Seng closed down 32 points on the session. So Asia mixed, Europe green, and the US green, with the exception of the NASDAQ. Not pulling its weight today. So, with that said, we will head over to Michael, and he'll pop in, give us a recap of everything that happened in the live training room today. We'll take a look at some headlines and all the things that we normally do.
The normal CFRN things.
Here
we go. I'm grabbing them right now. There we go.
Okay, I can see the charts. I'm going to step away, but I'll be right back.
Alright, sounds good. Alright, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, the 9th day of June, 2017. Let's see. Yeah, the 9th day of June, 2017. If you have not taken a free trial with us, we've made it really easy now. You just got to go to the home page here at CFRN.net. And this green banner is going to pop down. All you got to do is click there, right there where it says click here. Click there, then put in your email and your first name. Hit submit. Once you do that, you'll be sent a confirmation link. You must click on that confirmation link. Okay, once you click the confirmation link, then, and only then, will you get all the information you need to get into the live training room. Okay. Yeah. That is how you get to that. Now, oops. The spreadsheet is right in here. If you're going to read the spreadsheet, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosure stuff down at the bottom. As I said, today is the 9th day of June, 2017. Today, -2 in the euro, +4 in the YM, +12 in crude. That gets to 127.50. 127.50. Took 91 minutes and 7 opportunities to get to the goal for the day at 107.50, and took a total of 9 opportunities today. 741.25 on the month. That's over 7 days, averaging 105 per day. That's gross. 105 per day. And scrolling on down. The gross yearly total, 16,876. That's over 108 days, averaging 156 per day. 156 per day. Okay. Again, if you're going to read this, you can read all the CFTC risk disclosure stuff down at the bottom. Okay. Now, let's see. Gold. We missed this one right here, and then we had a break even right there. And that was all that we did. Now, during the break, there was a long trade right here in gold. Right here, on bounce off the BBC, right there. That pulled back a little ways, but it eventually ended up putting in a higher swing. Okay. So gold settled right in there. In the euro, we started out this morning. We were on the September euro, and I checked the volume, and the volume was way more on the M contract. So I switched back to the M contract, the June contract. We stopped out on our first one on the June contract. I mean, on the September contract this morning. That's why I just had this random stop out here. But we were -8 ticks there, and then we picked up 2 ticks there and 4 ticks there, bringing us back to -2. Okay. And let's see. During the break, we didn't have a thing. was a shorting opportunity right here. We had a break even, and we picked up 10 ticks on that and 2 ticks on that. We missed that one, and then we went into the break, and there really wasn't anything here during the break. All right, so we're plus 12 on the crude. The YM, we had, yeah, we had just those two. The ES started out in a zone, then it went to the other zone, and anyway, we picked up 4 on this one, and a break even there. There was one more opportunity right here. This was at the end of the session today, and we missed that one. We got really choppy. Look at this. It's like it's all coiled up and ready to explode. But yeah, the ES. Did we highlight anything in the ES? You see it went from this zone. This is where it started out at the open inside this zone, and it worked its way up to the next zone, and then it got through that and pulled right back down into it here. Okay, and that was it for the ES. And there's one thing I wanted to look at: soybeans. I wanted to look at. Well, another thing that I wanted to point out. This was the pound last night. See how that thing was just bouncing all over the place last night. All right. With that, the news out of the elections in the UK. Now we had soybeans. The WASI report came out today. That's what I was looking at here on the soybeans. See if we had any huge movement on the beans, and it dropped almost 10 cents. Yeah, it dropped 10 cents on the WASI report. But that was it. That was our day today, guys. It was kind of slow and quiet. And we're -2 on the euro, +4 on the YM, +12 on crude, 127.50 gross. Took 91 minutes and 7 opportunities to get to the goal for the day, and we took a total of 9. So on the month, 741.25. That's over 7 days, averaging 105 per day. And down here on the year, 16,876. That's over 108 days, averaging 156 per day. Okay. Now, where is that? Here it is. If you have not taken a free trial with us, and you would like to take a free trial with us, then just go here to the home page, right up here at the very top, where it says learn our strategy, use our indicators. Click here. You click there, fill in these two little slots here on the form, and you'll be sent to confirmation link. You must click on the confirmation link. Okay? When you click on the confirmation link is when we find out that you took the trial. All right? Up until then, we don't know. It's all a mystery. All right, that's all I got, guys. With that, Dwayne, if he's back, can take it back out. The largest city park. America's largest city park. Okay, right. I didn't even have to read it. Look at the way this thing is just coiling up here. That is a mess. There you go. You are taking it back.
I am indeed. I am indeed. There we go. That ought to do the trick. And
yes.
So, on the S&P, we ran. Now this is still the June contract. I'll roll it forward here in a bit. We'll take a look. Because the alerts that went out last night were on the new contract. The U contract. And you guys traded everything on the U contract this morning, correct?
Everything but the euro. The euro
you
was
didn't,
still.
you didn't roll the euro? Okay.
I did this morning, but then I looked at the volume, and we'll roll the euro Monday. The volume was still way off on the old contract. We had like 130,000 on the old and 11,000 on the new. Something like that.
So for the week on the ES, the June contract, we opened Sunday night and came right down into the zone and consolidated, and then we went up to the zone and back down to the zone and up to the zone and back down to the zone, and then we dropped to the zone below and back up and back down and back up and back down and back up, and a lot of consolidation and back down. And then last night, the gap lower open, and today we ran right up to 45.46. Was that the highest zone for the week? Nope. We still have one more to go, but it's all irrelevant because we're rolling into a new contract. It's the last day of the week, and we'll have a new set of zones that go out to the partners Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. But as zones go, they did their job quite well. Zone to zone, back to the zone. So this pullback here that we see in the markets, well, like I say, we'll roll everything forward and take a look at the U contract here in a moment. But I want to talk about a couple headlines here. As fired FBI Director James Comey testified Thursday, mostly on his conversations and communications with President Donald Trump. He revealed one bit of major news unrelated to the growing investigations involving the White House. And a law professor says that, looking back, the incident could have changed the course of last year's presidential election. Comey said during testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee that former Attorney General Loretta Lynch asked him to refer to the investigation into Democratic presidential nominee Hillary Clinton's use of a private email server as a matter instead of an investigation. Comey said the request, he recalled, gave me a queasy feeling. It also echoed language the Clinton campaign itself was using. That was one of the bricks in the load that led me to conclude I have to step away from the department if we're to close this case credibly. After hearing Comey's Thursday remarks, Jed Sugarman, a law professor at Fordham University, said he could no longer stand by my earlier criticism that the GOP was asking about Clinton email to distract from the Trump questions. They may have intended to change the subject, but they found a real subject to investigate further. The professor called the apparent pressuring of Comey to use matter instead of investigation a huge mistake and a partisan intrusion on Lynch's part. It probably changed history by making Comey more skeptical about her and the Clintons' role. I inferred that it had an effect on Comey that may have changed how he handled the investigation later. She will face very tough questions, and it validates the follow-up questions on the Clinton campaign on their handling the email. We'll hear a lot about this. He added it does not rise to obstruction because it was wording, semantics, not the substance of investigation, but Comey was right to be troubled. Lynch and Bill Clinton should be called to testify and explain their behavior. What's obstruction for the goose is obstruction for the gander. Comey gave a press conference early last July announcing that he would not recommend charges while painting Clinton and her team as extremely careless. In late October, in a moment that had a significant implication for the November election, Comey sent a letter to Congress announcing that new materials warranted a reopening of the case. But days later, he announced that the new materials, which were found on disgraced former Representative Anthony Weiner's computer, did not warrant further investigation. Comey originally felt the need to deliver that July press conference after former Bill Clinton met with Lynch aboard a plane on a tarmac in Arizona. Wow. Cloak and dagger, right? So, everybody, I think, was kind of holding their breath, expecting the testimony to turn the market on its head, but not so much. Market's held up quite well. John, is that you?
Yeah.
Oh, welcome to the show. Glad to have you with us. Happy Friday.
Thanks. Well, not too happy for a few people who might be caught long in this market. We absolutely nailed the highs on this one today, and that's why I got on early, because I wanted to kind of give a guided commentary of what's happening here.
Okay.
Look, this is the move we've been talking about. Could come out of the blue any day, and it's happened today. And the thing is, look, it's a really, they always do things to kind of thwart you. And as you know, we've been very bullish on the LABU, and the LABU, which we said was one of the legs of the stool, was missing, and it sort of kicked in today with the final liftoff of GILD, which we had a buy stop in, ready to catch the upside on this stock. And we are actually out of it right now, and we're out of the LABU right at the high. The LAB shot up to 53.40. I think we got out about 53.30, because this sell-off in the Nasdaq is kind of different from anything we've seen in a while, and it is dragging the rest of the market down. And it was initiated by NVIDIA, which actually we got a little bit of a buy here, so I'd probably cover shorts on reverse right here, just for a pop, but I'd probably resell this next rally and definitely sell new lows. But we actually got out of the NV right up around 168 this morning, right at the high, and we took a little shot at pulling the first pullback, and then we got sold on a new lows sell signal, and then we covered for $0.50 or $1 off the last pop, and we tried the same thing on this one. This one looks a little bit better. It might stabilize here a bit, so we could get a bit of a rebound in the Nasdaq. But look, we've had 50-point sell-offs in the Nasdaq before, and that was it. And they looked as scary as this is today. So I'm not saying this is the end of the world by any means, but it is the fact that the Nasdaq is dragging the rest of the market down, and it took time for the market to break. But the TNA is incredibly bullish today, and it is not giving up much ground at all in spite of the Nasdaq. So this is what makes it so hard, because really the TNA is kind of a guide, is to say, it's actually just a pullback, right? If it was a real deal, the TNA would be down 20 points right now, and it'd be a disaster. But the fact that we're stabilizing here and we're actually starting to rally is encouraging, and it could turn into something bigger like we have seen. One of these days, and it could be today, you get a deal where we get a sharp sell-off, and then all of a sudden the Nasdaq's going to get a second wind and to go screaming up through new all-time highs. That would be extremely bullish if that were to happen. But we're quite a ways from anything like that happening today. But if we were to stabilize and we were to cut some of these losses, something like that could happen. And given the strength of the rest of the market, one could argue that something like that could happen today. However, at the moment, the Nasdaq can't really get out of its own way. It's trying hard to rally here. I would put a stop right underneath the price right here if you can just start back in. because it's not looking that great. And the VIXs are up. I noticed they were coming off the lows early this morning. We also put a sellout on the XIV virtually at the high. On the ACWI, which is a global index, where the same thing at the high. The Nasdaq's coming off again, so I go back to selling, to shorts on everything right now. I think just let's see what happens here in the next few minutes. But it's a pretty volatile situation. Look at Guild. You see, it's going higher now. It's sort of running its own race today, GILD. So not everything is going down, and Blue has gone crazy as well, which is what we mentioned recently, from all the way from 81 up through 90s and hit 116 the last time I looked at it. It's pretty powerful. So the pharmaceutical sector is really going extremely well today, at the expense of some other, at the expense of the tech sector. Let's put it that way.
GILD's well, it's up 43 cents on the day, better than half of 1%.
Exactly, and it looks like it's going to go higher. I think this stock, I think it's bottomed. It's probably worth taking a shot, because look, when the market sells off like this and there's a stock going up, it's usually you want to be in that stock. So we're definitely short again. Look at this thing is going down. With the exception of Nvidia and Facebook that are trying to stabilize here, and if they give up more gains, this Nasdaq's going to be down 100 before you know it. If it doesn't hold in here, then it's really starting to get kind of serious. So that's I'd say that right now. The gold, after an early stumble, look, the gold kind of broke a little bit more than we. I didn't like the way it broke 1275. I said yesterday it'd probably go down to test the 1274 again. It did, and it failed and went lower. We actually bought it. We covered and reversed the position at 1267, and we got literally the lows on the silver around 1716. We did extraordinarily well on the palladium this morning. I happened to be around when it hit 890. We sold it at 890, and it's currently at 857. We sold the platinum near the highs as well, ran up to 955. For a while, it looked like the palladium was going to drag the platinum up, and it still could. If the palladium, what's happening with this palladium is it keeps having the heart attack pullback, and then it runs up again. But today's pullback it's possibly done it. It's probably done going up for a while, which may be detrimental to the metals, but not necessarily. Right now, the nugs, the J nugs and the nugget are acting quite well. They're coming back very strong. We put out a buy. There's so much going on so fast. We just buy the metals. Just buy. When we say buy the metals, we're talking about everything: gold, royal gold, gold itself, silver, the whole works. So, and copper, I said, if you remember yesterday, I said copper really looks like it's going to go higher, and it is moving relentlessly higher, methodically higher, if you like, right now. It honestly looks to me like it could get back up to 290, possibly even go above 3 and 310, which, if that happens, beyond today, at some point, if we start rallying again, we might see our way to going up to 22,000. But right now, this is a kind of a troubling day, because when you get a sort of what happened this morning, we're gunning for the 6,000 number on the Nasdaq, and everything was looking dandy. All the fangs were up, and it was looking like we were going to go. And then when Nvidia, after three gaps in a row, instead of going higher, well, it did go higher initially, but then it started selling off. And when a leader like Nvidia sells off, the market loses confidence, and That's what's going on here today. So the semiconductors and the tech sector are losing confidence. And I just tell you this, notwithstanding what I've said about being really bullish up until today, which we were, when the semiconductors reverse like they're doing right now, you have to be very, very careful, because believe me, the semiconductors always top out first. And if they're topping out today, then it could change everything. So I think you have to be, and look, the way this is going on, where it's sort of dragging, now the Dow's being cut in half again. We suddenly go negative on the Dow today, and we're really selling off hard now. And
the NASDAQ is just crashing and burning.
Right. Well, that's why we went back short. Now everything's starting to cave, so we have to, if we go negative on the Dow today, I'm telling you, this is like 2007 all over again. So it's, this is a couple of days like this.
Everyone was expecting this to happen yesterday with the testimony from Comey, but the market's actually rallied when they gapped lower on the open. So, and then they traded higher overnight, and it was about 10 o'clock this morning, Eastern, actually 10:30 that the sell-off started. What do you think's behind it?
You know what? I just think it's one of those days when the market just kind of the sentiments just changed, And I think the election in England. You remember what it said? I mean, we said it's absolutely insane. These conservatives, they have a terrible habit of calling these snap elections, thinking they're going to win. And of course, unfortunately, because of the 2 terror attacks, it kind of changed everything. And it's unbelievable, because the former deputy prime minister lost his seat, and even the Scottish nationalists who want to stay in the Europe, they lost a lot of seats. So I think the Brexit deal is in jeopardy. Thank God, and it's very possible that the Labour and the Scottish and maybe the Northern Irish will all combine to form a majority, and they will call for a referendum. They call for a new referendum on this thing, and I guess if they vote twice to leave, then it's a done deal. But if they don't, if everybody changes their mind and decide to stay in Europe, and I think that most people who can do mathematics are probably horrified with the idea of the country having to pay a $110 billion exit fee to get out of Europe. That is just beyond insanity. It's just crazy. And if you multiply that out for the U.S., it's like paying $600 billion. To give you an idea how big the deal is monetarily. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane, and it's not good. It's damaging to world trade. We might be stabilizing again here. We might have a bit of a rally. The Dow is coming back a bit here, making a bit of a stand. So, but the S&P isn't. So it's not ready to go yet. But maybe in around here it might. But it's kind of done too much technical damage already today. It's being down 68. It's not the kind of day that could end up being down 100 or 200 before it's all over, if this continues. So it's got to be nipped in the bud pretty much in around here. Otherwise, I think it changes everything.
So are we done with this Comey business now, or did we open and rooms?
Hopefully. I think that the only way Trump can win is he can look. He can do really what he wants. He can fire Comey for no reason. He can order a stop to an investigation. He can open an investigation. This is what Alan Dershowitz has been saying for a long time, and Comey finally came out and said the same thing yesterday. Trump really ought to, in order to get the Democrats into line, he should order an investigation. If they haven't, Clinton could be under investigation already. You don't know, but if she is, it might bring an end to all this nonsense between the Democrats and the Republicans, because it'll give them a taste of their own medicine kind of thing. If they want to go after Trump, I think Hillary is legitimate, especially if she's joining the resistance and is adding her poison to the well kind of thing. I think you'd agree with me on that one.
Absolutely. Comey, he did talk yesterday about Loretta Lynch asking him to not use the word investigation, but to refer to it as a matter.
What a disgrace. By the way, look, I think we're going to rally here. I think we're stabilizing. We're going to rally, and the metals are coming off a bit, which is a sign that we're probably going to rally. So we're going to rally a bit.
The Dow's caught a nice bounce off of...
yeah, it definitely did.
True 1185. That was a weekly trading zone for last week, or for this week. But for the June contract, we rolled into the September today. But this is what rejection looks like, guys, when we hit a zone. And I think pops back up. Now, this 30-minute candle's still got, 15 minutes, 17 minutes left in it. And so we don't form any kind of an opinion until the candle closes. But if we stay above this area, this zone, then we might start to work our way back up. I mean, this could be nothing more than a pullback in an uptrend, because from the lows last night on the Dow, from the low that was put in right after that gap lower opening last night, all the way up to the high this morning, what we just did was we just did a 38% retracement. We overshot the 38 just a little bit. Didn't get down to the 50. And so if the market can take a 38% retracement and bounce back, then I think all's well. Shaking out loose hands.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So what other news is happening out there today?
I don't know really. I've been so focused on the markets today. I really don't know what else is going on other than the British situation. We got long the cocoa this morning, right at the open, or even yesterday actually, and it's moving up very nicely. We were long the coffee, which shot up dramatically to about 128 and a half. We sold it up there. We're now short the coffee again, and we are short cotton big time, which is breaking down to new lows. And we were long the grains, but we're out of them right now. We sold them on the highs this morning. We got back long last night, and we sold them on the highs this morning. So we've had a hell of a day, frankly. No, we're breaking down again. This is terrible. This is really going to be bad.
Here's a headline: Forget FANG. Goldman adopts a new acronym for the most powerful tech stocks driving the markets. What have they come up with? Now it's FAAMG. Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and Alphabet. A group of 5 stocks which have been the key drivers of both the SPX and NDX returns year to date. Combined, the FANG, that doesn't read as well as FANG did, stocks have added $660 billion in market value this year. Again, those stocks: Facebook, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, and Alphabet.
That's pretty incredible, actually.
Goldman excluded Netflix, the N in FANG, and Nvidia, the red-hot tech stock that is up 249% in the past year, saying they are not yet large enough and are more profitable to mine for the Bitcoins at one point, but now at these new bubble
Well,
highs.
you know why the Bitcoin's going up, right?
No one.
Because this ransomware, which hit like hundreds of thousands of people, the only way they could get out of it was by buying Bitcoin.
Oh, yeah. But then I heard the fellows who perpetrated that thing had problems getting their money, even though they were trying to use the Bitcoin.
Exactly. But it's created pandemonium as a result, and since there's probably a lot of people pretty desperate to get their data back, and maybe it's causing a lot of buying pressure on the Bitcoin.
So, what were they charging? What was the ransom?
It wasn't excessive, like $300, $500, something like that.
Okay.
But multiplied by, hundreds of thousands could cause some buying pressure.
Well, Jason's going to be joining us at the top of the hour, John, so if you want to pop back in, feel free to do so.
Okay.
All right.
Alrighty. Well, listen, back to the invite.
All right. Thanks for everything.
Thanks.
We'll talk to you soon.
Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, and again, like I say, if you want to pop back in, go right ahead. Okay. All right, guys. Real quick, before Jason comes, we will hop over to our good word for the day. And somebody give me a Y in the chat box, because I need to grab a hold of that thing. Hey, thanks very much. Appreciate it. Put away the measuring stick. Psalm 133 says, "If you, Lord, kept a record of sins, who could stand?" We live in a results-oriented society where we're rewarded for our performance in school, in sports, on the job. But God doesn't think like that. His thoughts and His ways are far above ours. See Isaiah 55:8-9 for more on that. He's not impressed by empty duty. In 1 Samuel 15:22, it says, "Obedience is far better than sacrifice." He's much more interested in your listening to Him. And sometimes we're so busy talking, you can't really listen when you're talking. And I know that sometimes some of us, maybe not you, but some of us have a problem with, we're so hyper-focused on what we're going to say next that whoever we're in conversation with, we don't really hear a word they say, because the next thing coming out of our mouth is so very clever that we often cut them off before they can even finish their thought. I know I wrestle with that. I do. I'm aware of it. Just because I'm aware of it doesn't make it vanish, but at least I'm aware of it. Feelings and emotions are powerful, but they're seldom objective. And when you base your worth as a Christian on your performance as a flawed human being, well, the enemy kind of has a field day. Satan is called the accuser of the brethren. Revelation 12:10. He wants you to run a checklist of your failures and mistakes. That way he can torment you by reminding you of all the times you lose your temper, criticize, fail to speak up for what's right, or let a misconception go unchecked to make yourself look better. David said, "If the Lord kept a record of sin, who could stand?" Even the most disciplined believer has areas where he or she struggles and fails. It's the human condition. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you're human. It's why we need God's grace and forgiveness 24/7. Psalm 103:14 says, He knows how weak we are, and He's never surprised when, despite our best intentions, we fall short. Reimar Schultz says, God doesn't measure us by our performance, but by our love for Jesus. Indeed, in the kingdom of God, our love for Jesus is our performance. Everything else is secondary. Desire to be with Him, to abide in Him, to keep in fellowship with Him, to please Him, is what our Master longs for. So, put away your measuring stick, the one you use to measure yourself and on your behalf. That's our good word for the day. Okay, now Jason is going to join us either by telephone today, or I did give him the link so that he could log in. Let me just open up my list, and that way I can see when he pops in, if he comes that way. And if he comes by phone, I'll hear him as he enters the front door. Okay, let's take a quick look. It's always messy on rollover day. Go back to the ES for a minute. Now, how lovely the S&P performed with the weekly zones. I mean, on that gap lower open last night, we caught it, and then when we pulled back to make sure that zone was going to be good support, it definitely was. Pushed it right up to the next zone where we consolidated for quite a few hours. This 130-minute candle, we ran almost up to the next zone, back down. I mean, what an orderly procession. Okay. Now we're going to shake it all up, and we're going to move it forward to the September contract. ESU7. Today volume in the September contract exceeded June, and picture's not quite as clear, but again, those zones were written for last week. But as you can see, now that we've rolled forward, the zones still do their job. That's sort of an amazing thing we noticed. Historical observance. That gap lower last night, it still caught it, and then we rallied right back up. We didn't quite hit that 45.46 in the September contract, but the bounce that we just caught on the S&P and the Dow is evident in both June and September. Now let me bring up the alerts from last night, and I'll drag them over so everybody can take a screenshot. At least that's the plan. There we go, I think. Okay. So this is the email that went out last night. Roll indices forward to you. Now Michael says he didn't roll the euro, but the euro is not part of the Concierge Trade Alerts. S&P, Dow, Russell, those rolled. Gold, not yet. NQ, that rolled. Bonds, we rolled about a week ago or a few days ago anyway. It's not time for gold, and it's not time for beans. The indices, and on Monday, the 6E, the euro, will roll forward. Okay? All right, so that's time to get a screenshot. Last night, on the U contract, we were looking to be long the S&P at 24.33. We got the alerts out at 8:15 p.m., so that's 2015. So we're going to have to roll that forward to 2030. Hey, Jason, is that you?
That's me. I'm here. I'm on the line.
Hey, welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Jason Hommel. He was with us last Friday, and he is kind enough to come back and join us again today. Jason's pretty famous in the world of silver. He's a little humble about that, but Marc Faber has called him one of the smartest guys in the room when it comes to silver, comparing him to Ted Butler and Dave Morgan. You should check out his website. He hasn't been writing there actively lately, but silverstockreport.com, a lot of great historical articles there, and you quickly realize that he knows a heck of a lot about silver when it comes to silver. So, but I know that today, Jason, we had talked last Friday, and you reminded me of that this morning, that we were going to talk about something a little different, something that people of a certain age need to get focused on.
I'd like to talk about health. And, without health, it's hard to get wealth. And without good health, it's hard to do a lot of the research and things that I've done. And in fact, when I was running Silver Stock Report, I let my health decline a little bit because I was working so hard. It became a little bit of a workaholic. Mm-hmm. And I'm kind of glad I've been able to take a little bit of a breather from it the last couple of years. Just focus on my health again. So that's a fair enough topic to discuss. A lot of
you
older
brought up
listeners.
You brought up some non-traditional things in the little message that you had sent me this morning. So I'm going to let you kind of, just take the wheel and run with it here, and maybe tell us about your journey and the things that you have found beneficial and why they're beneficial and helpful, and how ordinary folks like us, can implement some of these things.
Sure. Well, the first thing I did for my health was in 2011, and I got sober. I went to the Betty Ford Center all the way down in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
It was very expensive. It was about $30,000 for the first month, and they convinced me to stay almost another 3 months. And because I really wanted to make sure I got it right, I saw a lot of people down there. More than half the people were there on their second trip to try to really, kick the drugs, whether it was heroin or whether it was, alcoholism again and again. Mm-hmm. It seemed to me that the people who were at the Betty Ford Center around my age, say 30, 40, 50, were the ones who took it the most seriously. There were kids who were like, oh, of course I'm going to drink again. I'm too young to quit. And then the old people, like 60 and plus, they're like, they often didn't take it seriously. Sometimes their family would put them in there. And they're like, my life's over. I'm just going to keep drinking. It's just bogus. It was really only the people who still have good, productive years left who said, and who had achieved some competence and were paying for it themselves, who realized this is really important. What am I doing? I've significantly declined in my, capacity. So, everybody my age really took it seriously there. And
what about people that can't afford
I learned
that
a lot.
level?
I learned a lot going there. For people who can't afford it, how do I say? I think I found a better way to quit than, to be honest, than Betty Ford Center. The Betty Ford Center, the top things that keep you sober are accountability. So, for example, the professionals who are doctors, lawyers, and airline pilots, they have a risk of losing their license by being an alcoholic, because you have to have your professional license to be in those jobs. So at the risk of losing their license or being kicked off of, companies, in the case of like being an attorney, what they have done is created an accountability whereby you have to just go for random testing about every 2 months. And so about 6 times a year, when you're called, you just have to take an afternoon off work, go in, pee in the cup. And if you know that that's happening, you know that people are going to be watching you. That's what keeps people sober. But also, after I got out of Betty Ford, I realized they have almost a little bit of a brainwashing facility in there. They limit your access to outside people, and they limit your access to the internet. And I don't think that that's necessarily wise or even appropriate. I think they can handle rehab by giving people far more internet access or access to their friends, family, and even businesses. It's very hard to take time off, let alone the cost of going. So I think rehab could be done a lot better. And then the other thing is, they said we all have a brain disease, but they didn't really offer too much in the way of brain healing. And there's just so much information out there about how to heal the brain. So I found it a little bit discouraging after I had gotten out and I was able to begin doing more research. And then another thing I found is that with regards to proving effectiveness, well, the number one thing that Betty Ford Center claims is effective, and I think that's true, is that accountability set up. But then the other is that AA itself, Alcoholics Anonymous, does not have a really great track record, and there's not really any good ways to track its effectiveness. So
yeah, the best estimates I've heard are about maybe 30% success rate.
Well,
and then again, a guy can stay sober.
How many medallions they've given out to people who are sober, but that's not necessarily an accurate way. There's really bad ways. There's really no good ways to determine if AA works, especially if you're mandated to go by the courts to go to AA. Is that going to help you? I don't know, but I just like the fact that AA is free. But I don't actually like a lot of the messages that they say. They kind of worship this little blue book that was written in the 40s, and come on, we're living in the age of the internet. Right. There's so many more good resources out there. And, to be stuck at reading some book written in the 40s that is surrounded by accusations of quasi-fraud and stuff is weird. I do like living the sober life. I think I get a lot more out of it. I'm way healthier. And for me, I kind of do believe that for me, alcohol could be dangerous because, as they explain, some people have a desire to drink and drink and drink, like in the 10 drink or more range in one night, and they don't get sick. Whereas people with a high-functioning, very healthy liver will break down the alcohol fast enough so where they get nauseous literally after 1 to 2 drinks. And I never got that way. So the body has, for most people, I think, a self-correcting mechanism to tell them, hey, your hand's on the hot stove, don't do that. This is going to make you feel bad. So most people, 1 to 2 drinks, that's all they really need. It's about 10% of the population that are kind of in the alcoholic range, and some people really can push it because they never really get sick, and that's me. My liver's not functioning well, so that's why I can drink and drink and drink, and I only feel better until all of a sudden I go, boom, pass out. That's really dangerous. My father was an alcoholic. He died when he was 59 and a half, kind of a tragic story. And so I have a genetic predilection for it. My liver just doesn't operate as well as it should be. So for me, the sober life is kind of essential, because if I try to dance with alcohol and try to drink responsibly and try to drink like people who can drink, 1 to 2 drinks in the evening, a couple nights a week, that just doesn't work for me. I tried it. I already tried it. And they said, look, if you don't think you're an alcoholic, why don't you try drinking moderately, see how well that works for you. And I was, when I was sitting in rehab, I'm like, I already know that doesn't work. So the story I tell is I've tried to limit my drinking by saying, okay, well, I'm only going to drink red wine. No hard alcohol, no beer, nothing else. Only red wine, because red wine might be a little bit thick for you, right? What they say, the French or whatever.
Right.
But, and then I would say, well, I'm going to limit it further. I'm only going to have red wine when I have a steak, because red wine goes with steak. Red wine doesn't go with fish. Well, very quickly, I wanted to have steak 5 nights a week. And then after about 3 or 4 months of trying to do that, I developed such a severe case of heartburn that I realized for my health I should only drink, rum and Coke, because that didn't give me heartburn. And you see how insidious the darn disease is. Your brain just doesn't think right. You just want to drink to relax and feel better. And I really fell into it hard 1 year after I had some significant business difficulties and betrayals and thefts. And I felt so horrible about that because it could ruin everything that I had invested into. And eventually it did. I mean, I knew it in advance that it was going to ruin everything. And I just didn't know how to stop it. I ended up spending, $500,000 on attorneys, and the IRS came after me and, slammed into me again. And I'm at the time I had a net worth of about $5 million, and now I'm about broke. So I cried over that the first year, seeing how it was just going to destroy me, and it did. It did, and it destroyed the dream too, to try to be a billionaire. So,
how incredibly brave of you to be able to speak about it with such candor. I just want you to know that I appreciate and respect.
Well, what happens is when your brain gets really healed, it gets the emotional difficulties get less emotionally difficult. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in a place where my brain feels very well healed, but my financial situation is still rather devastated, and this is probably one of the biggest reasons why I find it very difficult to write. I don't have any skin in the game anymore. I can't even own wealth. I've been under IRS collections for 3 years, so it makes it really difficult. But I want to try to focus on the topic of health, because going through that has forced me to get healthy again, because if I'm going to work, I'm going to have to work harder than I've ever had before, and I have to be healthy to do that. So, so the road to health in 2011 was I quit drinking. And when you quit drinking, one of the things that opens up is, let me tell you what it was like for me in the era when I was drinking versus when I quit. When I was I felt like I had just a couple hours of productivity a day, maybe 10 till 3, and then I just felt horrible in the last hour of the workday. And then it was just, I can't wait for it to be time to drink again. And it just, my body hurt and ached for it. It was horrible. So when I got out of that, all of a sudden I felt like after I went through rehab, I had these huge blocks of time open up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have time to, watch TV in the evenings and work out, and wow, the day is long. and I felt less tired and less like I really needed it. In rehab, they make you work out an hour every single day. That was brutal. The first week, my body hurt so bad, I wanted alcohol just to make the pain go away.
Yeah.
From muscle soreness. And I'm sitting there going, oh my God, here I am in rehab, volunteering to go into rehab, and yet all I can think of is how badly I want to drink. My mind was going crazy in there. I'm like, I guess it's good I'm behind walls, because I had no idea that the cravings were going to hit that bad. But I'm one of the lucky ones. I don't have very much cravings. So probably another big takeaway is that a lot of people quit without rehab, without AA. They just make up their mind to quit. And willpower and persistence goes a long way. And I think one of the dangerous things that AA teaches is that you don't have any willpower over this kind of nonsense. And that's exactly the opposite of what the Bible teaches. God holds us accountable for our behavior. We're making choices all the time. So to try to sell we're powerless over alcohol, that's wrong. I'm very powerful over alcohol as long as I do the right things and take care of myself.
As long as it stays in the bottle and not in the body.
Yeah, as soon as I start taking that drink, my power over alcohol starts going way down, because I want another one really bad, knowing this about myself. That the resolve in me weakens tremendously, because I don't get the pain response or the nausea response. It helps keep me sober, because it's important for me. It's not important for everybody. For people who can drink 1 or 2 drinks a night, they don't need to know about this stuff. Sobriety is not necessarily something that they need to do. I've been around people who drink 1 or 2 drinks, and it's not a big deal. It doesn't bother me. Yeah. So what else did I learn? Yeah, willpower. They teach you can't rely on your willpower, because what if your willpower changes? Well, be consistent, and it won't. At least that's what I've learned in 5.5 years of sobriety now. But there's other little tricks, like people can get triggered from certain things, so you try to avoid those certain things. Like, there are other things that make you weak, like if you're cold, tired, and hungry all at the same time, and then you're also in a location where there's alcohol, you might want to break down because you're not feeling so good. So if you keep warm,
never let yourself get hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. Halt.
Yes. things like that. But another thing that I found, and this brings me to iodine, but I'm not there yet. But I'll come back to iodine.
Okay.
But iodine is a great brain booster. But let me tell you what I want to go and tell the narrative in chronological order. About a year after I got sober, I said to myself, you know what? I don't feel like I'm really healthy like I want to be. And I don't feel like I really got a good health education from the Betty Ford Center, which was sort of mainstream medicine. They had an anti-supplement view. They didn't allow any supplements in, and that kind of makes sense because they have pill poppers there, right? Mm-hmm. So it's hard to determine if people are taking down a magnesium pill versus people who are bringing in, I don't know, speed or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they just have a no supplement policy, but that's also the mainstream medical view. They don't really believe in vitamins and minerals very much. They don't recommend them very much. And that's a sad thing. I mean, science knows that we all need vitamin C to prevent scurvy on long voyages. This is not a disputable thing. Right. But that it's not but that vitamin C is not a main factor of medical knowledge or even education knowledge among the public. That's really sad. So one of the first things I did was when I wanted to get healthy was I discovered green smoothies. You know the green smoothie kick. Everyone likes green smoothies. Good for your health.
Did you say green tea?
Green smoothies. So what I do is I take a bunch of greens and a banana and another fruit, and I put them in the blender with some water, and I drink it down, almost like a whole quart.
Okay.
So there's green juice bars and stuff.
Right.
So I started drinking green smoothies, and I got a lot out of it. First couple of months, it really began to heal me. And I began to feel better in my joints, and I'd read that it was going to heal the joints, and my joints were bothering me. And I felt as if, just by listening to my body, I felt as if I could somehow stretch and get some significant joint pain relief. Of course, if you've been an alcoholic for a couple of years, joint pain kind of goes along with it. It's funny that the alcohol, of course, it strips the minerals from your body, and it burns up a lot of. I don't know what it does with alcohol, but it's bad for you on so many levels. But I was having some significant joint pain in my 30s and late 30s, and it began to go away when I was drinking green smoothies. And I had read that greens could maybe rehab your body of joint pain in about a year. And I began to do some active stretching, and I could sort of blast the pain out of my body in about a 2-month time frame. And I started on one part of the body at a time because it was kind of a long and slow process. But after working with it, I found a process that worked better. So in about 4 workouts in about a month, I could blast pain out of my body. And I showed another old man, and we did some isometric stretching, which is the kind that I like, while drinking a green smoothie, and it worked way better than if I had smoothies and did the stretching at a different time of the day. So I created a website called fixjointpain.com to sort of share that with the world, but I'm not being very successful with that, I guess, because I'm not charging any money, and without charging any money, you don't have an ad budget. But it's hard to sort of engage in monetary transactions when you've been under IRS collections for 3 years. So I have a business that's like ready to go, but I'm not quite ready to turn it on yet, or I'm getting there. But after about 6 months of doing stretching and green smoothies, I discovered a couple little things. I went to a naturopath, and I discovered that I was low in zinc and low in copper. I thought I was going to ace all the tests at the naturopath. I was maybe having a little bit of fatigue, but when I was diagnosed with low in zinc and copper, I started taking zinc and copper, and oh my God, I felt so much better.
What kind of test did they administer to tell you that you were low in these minerals?
They were blood tests.
Okay.
And it was a wide variety of tests. So I was also very high in iron. Well, not very high. I was high in iron and high in selenium. And then I was also
low in zinc and low in copper?
Right.
Okay.
And what's interesting is testing low in free testosterone and low in zinc is an interesting combination, and it sort of corroborates one another because zinc helps your body make testosterone. So I started taking zinc, as soon as they informed me. I took zinc that night, and the next morning I felt the testosterone rush. And I was, this is great. And I felt so good taking zinc. I literally couldn't believe it. I even stopped working out. I'm like, let's just heal your body for a month because you're getting so much healing from the increased testosterone. Just heal for a bit. It can take a while too. It could take up to 3 months to recover from a mineral deficiency. Mm-hmm. I began to think, maybe I'm losing too many minerals from the greens, because the greens act as they have a lot of minerals, but greens actually can chelate and strip minerals from the body. So I have a couple more examples about that.
So it's sort of a fine
greens
balancing act here. Okay.
Yes, I'm discovering the balancing act. So every day for health is not a good idea because you'll strip yourself of too many minerals. And I ended up low in zinc and copper. That's not good. So I started taking a multi-mineral pill. This was, I think, before I even went to the naturopath. And all of a sudden I got so much stronger in the gym. It was great. And I was taking zinc and copper too, but only like maybe twice a week. So I thought it was going to be fine on zinc and copper, but apparently I wasn't. I thought it was balanced. So I think I was doing greens about 3 and 4 times a week and zinc a couple times a week. And even doing that, I was still out of balance on zinc. But here's the thing. Zinc is only found primarily in meat, not really in greens at all. So it's going to create an imbalance if you do too much green. So after I had gotten such enormous benefits from both the greens and finding the antidotes to greens, which were zinc and copper, I was like, what trace minerals might I be missing? Mm-hmm. Because I had known that in the autism community, one of the things they do is they do chemical chelation, and then they try to add all the minerals back in, because when you do a chelation, it strips not just the bad minerals out that might be from vaccines like mercury and aluminum, arsenic or whatever, mm-hmm. or lead, but you also strip all the good minerals out. So I said, okay, well, what other vital trace minerals might I need? And there's a guy on Facebook who told me, Jason, you should look up boron and iodine. And I'm like, boron and iodine? Okay. And
iodine I'm familiar with, but boron I'm not.
Well, I read this article by Walter Last called The Borax Conspiracy. And it's a very well-researched article. It has about 25 references. And boron is a lot like iodine. They both kill candida. They both iodine is taken up in the thyroid.
Can you explain to folks what candida is? I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, candida is simply a fungus. Candida is a fungus. It's a yeast or a fungus that gets in the body and can get out of balance and can create things like athlete's foot or rashes that don't go away for a couple of years, or toenail fungus. A lot of the antibiotics that doctors prescribe are based on funguses. So funguses are kind of they're in the body
antibiotics that were given to you by the doctor for whatever is wrong with you, that can actually create a state of candida in the body. It's a side effect.
Well, yeah, half of the antibiotics out there are, maybe half or maybe 2/3 or maybe more, are basically, all the antibiotics are, I think, are almost all fungal based, or at least a lot of them are. Some of them might be more chemical based, but that's the thing. Boron and iodine are also very powerful antibiotics on their own, but they don't imbalance the gut. They don't create fungals. They kill the fungals. What else? And then boron was reputed to be very good for the joints. People have high arthritis in areas where there's low boron in the soil, and people don't have arthritis. Like 99% of the people are arthritis-free in areas where there's high boron in the soil, like in Israel. Soils have been really over-farmed and really depleted of the boron, like people that, like Crude, like sugarcane or whatever for years, or in the Caribbean. They have, like, well over 50% of the people have arthritis. So, I'm like, well, wow, that speaks to me and my joint pain, so let's go ahead and start taking some boron. And the article suggested maybe 20 milligrams of boron would be a high dose. 3 milligrams of boron might be sufficient, but maybe 10 might be slightly over sufficient. So he did like 20 milligrams of boron for like 3 weeks, and all his joint pain went away. I said, well, that's great, let's try it. And I felt like I got a whole other layer of pain relief. But it felt like it was kind of very similar to green smoothies for me. And in fact, one of the high boron foods is apples and some dried fruits. And I was eating, apple in my boron, an apple in my green smoothie all the time. So I was getting enough boron already, maybe. But one of the things by taking a lot of boron can do is lead to a little bit of depression because it also cleans fluoride out of the body. So,
well, now, isn't fluoride supposed to be bad for us?
Yeah, fluoride is really bad for us, and I didn't think I had a lot of fluoride, but maybe I did. I mean, these things build up, and if you're not taking boron and iodine, how are you really going to excrete fluoride from the body? I really don't know. Those are the only two things I know that work on it. Some people say they don't really know of anything that removes fluoride from the body, and I found two things. So, it's boron and iodine will both do that. So boron and iodine, they also both boost testosterone. The studies are slightly inconclusive. It's not a whole lot of studies done on it, but fluoride depresses testosterone. So one of the mechanisms might be that if it's clearing out the fluoride, then your testosterone can more easily return to normal.
Are they still putting fluoride in our city water? I don't know, hopefully most folks aren't drinking city water, but...
Yes, they are. Fluoride is in my city water here in Sacramento, and that bothers me. I don't like that. So I just drink distilled. It's one thing to get all wrapped up about all the horrible things they're doing to us, but if we just take a little bit of extra time and buy distilled water and take some of these supplements, then you're immune to what they're trying to do to us. I don't know if fluoride in the water is necessarily a conspiracy or if it's just the blind leading the blind. They also put iodine in everybody's salt. They did that in the what is it, in the 20s?
Oh, it's called
on the container. They put iodine in the salt, and then they put
iodized salt. That's what that means?
That's right.
Okay.
That's what that means, right? So when they began, I think, processing salt and stripping out all the other minerals, the problem is people were, I guess, maybe getting iodine deficient, and it was like a single scientific paper in somewhere around 1924 rapidly convinced people to add iodine to salt to make goiters go away. And there's some interesting research that came out about 5 years ago that said that people in the United States who were entering the military coming from low iodine areas, after iodine was introduced to the salt, they gained about 15 IQ points.
What?
And Harvard's recently done a study. Yes, that's a big one, isn't it?
Wow.
They gained 15 IQ points just by putting iodine in the salt in the 1924 by simply looking at how many people qualified for the Air Force, because Air Force wants the smarter candidates.
Oh, yeah, when you take the ASVAB test, the Air Force is at the top, at least back when I joined the military, was at the top of the list. You had to score pretty high to get in.
That's right.
The Air Force.
That's it. So from people from the goiter belt in Michigan and low iodine areas, far more of them started qualifying for the Air Force within a few years of iodizing the salt.
Okay, now what is a goiter? What is that?
Oh, goiter is a swollen thyroid. What happens is if the thyroid is not getting enough iodine, it will swell up and get bigger to try to capture more of the iodine that's available. Or that's one of the theories. It makes sense. Maybe it would do that. So goiter is basically one of the, like scurvy, they discovered that iodine cures goiter, probably 150, 200 years ago. They learned about iodine kind of around the same time as vitamin C. Yeah, it's like 200 years ago. And so how come everybody isn't taking iodine and vitamin C to stay healthy? Maybe they don't want us to be healthy. Because the thing with iodine, it's like another conspiracy. Like paper money is a conspiracy. Yeah, we know that. We know they're hurting us dealing with paper money. To control a population, you don't want them to be too smart. If they're too smart, they're going to understand the paper money game and they're going to throw it off.
Yeah.
So to dumb people down, they give us all fluoride, and they say iodine is poison. So the U.S. RDA for iodine is 150 micrograms, and I'm taking 150 milligrams, which is 1,000 times as much. I've been taking 1,000 times as much as the U.S. RDA for the last 6 months. I'm fine. In fact, I feel better than ever. So here's the big admission that was hard for me to admit to myself at first.
1,000 times as much.
Yes, I'm talking fast. I have to let you catch up. I'm taking 150 milligrams of iodine. The high iodine protocol calls for 50 milligrams, and let me tell you about that. There's a website called optimox.com. About Dr. Abraham, who's done a lot of research with Brownstein and
spell that for me.
Medical doctors. Optimox.com. OPTIMOX.com.
MOX. Okay.
Yeah. So go research that. I found it hard to read and understand a lot of the research. The papers are big. But as soon as I started taking iodine, all of a sudden it was like a switch went off in my brain, and I was able to concentrate way better. I was able to remember way better. I had an emotional calmness. I'll never forget it. It was February 7th, Super Bowl Sunday. Almost just over a year ago now, because we're in April, right? We're in June. April, May, June. The time is flying. The first day I took iodine, I took one drop of it, and I was having over 100 suicidal thoughts a day. It was almost a constant stream of consciousness just over a year ago. And when I took iodine, two amazing things happened. I no longer was besieged by suicidal thoughts. It stopped. And I was like, what brain am I in? My brain changed that much. And then I was able to think about all the traumas and everything that happened, and I didn't get mad about it. And I was able to process the information so much better. I'm like, what is going on? Really? This is the iodine? Let's just take iodine for another couple of days and see if it's the same.
Now, were you taking it in the liquid form?
Change in my
or
I took it in liquid form. It's called Lugol's 2%. Lugols. Lugol's 2%. Lugol's is like a
I have
formula.
some of that.
So
I have some of that in my
in
my supplement section. It was recommended to me a couple months ago, and I have not been religious in remembering to take it.
Let me tell you how to take it. All right, do you have any selenium?
I'd have to ask my wife. I'm not consciously aware that we have some, but we might.
Okay, so let me tell you what Lugol's has. One drop has about 2.5 milligrams of iodine. One drop of it. So I'm taking about 60 drops a day.
Okay, I use
20 drops
that little
a day,
Lugol's bottle. I fill up on the days I remember to take it. I just fill up the whole eyedropper and shoot it in a little, couple ounces of water.
Yeah, you shouldn't do that. That's too much for you unless you're taking selenium. You need about 300 micrograms of selenium, and unless you're getting selenium, you shouldn't do that. And the reason is, selenium is an antioxidant, and iodine is an oxidant. Now, iodine is going to concentrate in your thyroid. It's going to help your body make hydrogen peroxide, another great healer. But you can over-oxidize and destroy your thyroid and create autoimmune disease if you don't have enough selenium. And taking a lot of iodine can lead to selenium deficiency, which the iodine doctors have discovered. If you take about 300 micrograms of selenium, you're protected. And you'll be fine, and you won't develop Hashimoto's, which about 12% of the population has, which is an autoimmune disorder where your body is trying to attack its own thyroid. So selenium, very important with iodine.
I'm going to have to look into that.
Make sense?
Yeah.
The other thing is the body uses both iodine and selenium to make its thyroid hormones. So your body will consume the selenium. If you take the iodine without the selenium, you have to add in the selenium. The minerals, they work sort of hand in hand. So I'm taking maybe 400 milligrams of selenium with my 150 milligrams of iodine. I think I'm okay. I don't detect anything wrong in my thyroid or anything like that.
Now, 150 milligrams of iodine, would that be like half of the eyedropper full?
I'm doing about 3/4 of the eyedropper full, which is about 20 drops, 3 times a day.
Okay.
What I do is I put liquid selenium
3 times a
and
day.
liquid iodine in my coffee, and I have about 3 coffees a day. And so I get my 3 shooters full. And I also add a little bit of nascent iodine in there too. But
now my wife drinks what's called bulletproof coffee. I don't know if you've heard of that, where they put.
I have, yeah.
Coconut,
that guy got pretty famous and got everybody drinking the organic grass-fed beef butter and MCT oil and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the organic coconut oil.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just use milk in my coffee, though. I did the butter in the coffee for a long time. It just doesn't stir in. It's all
the taste, I don't know. I could take I'm better off just taking a tablespoon of the coconut oil and just slugging it down, just swallowing it.
Slugging it down that way?
I don't leave it
works.
in my mouth long enough to really taste it. I just shoot it down and like an oyster or something.
I want to come back to boron. One of the side effects of boron, like I said, is depression, but iodine lifts depression. Now, this is really funny because if iodine lifts depression, why aren't doctors prescribing iodine for everybody out there who's got depression? Instead, they have their fluoride-containing drugs.
Great question.
Half of the antipsychotics out there, or the ding pills people take, like Paxil and Zoloft and stuff, half of those or more are built around a fluoride molecule. And fluoride and iodine have competitive absorption, so iodine helps to knock out the fluoride, but fluoride really kicks out the iodine. So a lot of people, and 70% of people out there are on prescription drugs. And 1/3, I think, three biggest class of drugs are.
Wow, that's a high number.
Yes, it's huge. Go look it up. 70% of people in America are on prescription drugs.
It's interesting. I grew up in a small town in Georgia. And I had I had my dad's parents and my mom's parents. So I had two sets of grandparents who could not have been more polar opposite. I don't know how my mom and dad ever got together. They say opposites attract, but if I went to my grandparents on my mother's side, if I went to their house, they had a prescription drug for everything imaginable under the sun. If I went to my other grandparents' house, my father's parents, you were lucky to find an aspirin in that place. I mean, they just did. It was quite amazing.
That's right.
The
I have
the
gotten
two.
rid of all aspirin and Tylenol and all that stuff about 4 years ago. I haven't taken any since.
Now,
I will say
that my grandfather.
I never get headaches. I don't need it.
Well, my grandfather on my father's side, even though they were not on prescription drugs all their life, like my other set of grandparents, he did have early onset, or he got adult diabetes, and he would, it was terrible. He would eat stuff that he wasn't supposed to eat, and my grandmother would scold him, and he would say, "I'll just take an extra shot," because he was having to take insulin shots, and he would, just so he could have a couple of extra little Debbies. I mean, it was terrible, and it led to early onset.
Wait, so he was no drugs, but he was on insulin. That's kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, he was healthy growing. I mean, he was the sheriff of the little town that I grew up in. He was a big man, a strong man. I mean, when trouble called, he went alone in the middle of the night. There was no backup. There was no Deputy Fife. There was no police department to, call in for backup. It was just him and his 38 going out in the middle of the night to face whatever trouble there was. So he was a strong, healthy man, but his heart began to give him out, and then the diabetes, and then the early onset of Alzheimer's. I mean, it was terrible. It really was. And so, but I'll just never forget how different the two households were. One filled with every prescription medication possible, and the other one empty until my grandfather
tried to avoid
got
as
sick.
much as possible. He tried to avoid as much as possible, but fell into the insulin trap.
Yeah.
So, bodybuilders that take steroids, their body shut down, and they don't make steroids, like they don't make testosterone like they need to.
Right.
So, same kind of similar thing, I think, probably happens with insulin. If you take insulin, your body doesn't have an incentive to make it anymore. In fact, will probably shut down its production, and all of a sudden you get, I guess the word is, it's worse than an addiction. Like you need it. It's more dependence. Mm-hmm. So I have fortunately fallen into, I still have sugar cravings, but they're getting far less than they used to be.
What do you use as a sugar replacement?
You just don't need it. I mean, fruit. I guess I eat enough fruit. If I'm craving carbs, I'll have like oatmeal or rice or something.
Well, what about your coffee? I'm trying to think of the stuff that we use. We've been using it for years instead of sugar.
I just often put half and half in my coffee. I don't need sugar in it. I just go half and half in iodine and selenium, and I'm good.
I can't believe it's slipping my mind. It's very popular in the health community as a replacement for sugar.
Oh yeah, there's what are the not stevia? That's the deal.
I'm sorry.
Right, stevia.
Stevia, yeah, right. We found a brand of stevia that really tastes like sugar, and I think that's because it is sugar, right?
Yeah.
But it's not. It's not processed like white sugar. I mean, white sugar and white flour, they're just killers, plain and simple.
Yeah, white rice is very similar to the sugar and the flour, but white rice, bodybuilders love it. Why is this? And sumo wrestlers, of course, eat white rice as much as they can get their hands on it, and they blow it up. They get all huge. So
I didn't
carbs really
that.
do kind of make you fat. But the thing about white rice is that it's a little bit like magic, and if you don't do too much or abuse it, it actually it's one of the most easily digested foods, which is great for sumo wrestlers who want to pack on the pound, or for people who are having digestive issues, or who are on the thin side and can't gain weight. I mean, there are people out there who should be prescribed white rice almost.
Is it okay to add soy sauce to the white rice?
Like I've known some. I think, soy is a goitrogen, so I try to avoid it, but I still eat at Panda Express because, you know what, hey, I know I'm taking a goitrogen in soy sauce. I know, a lot of the soy, most of the soy in the world is GMO. I'd like to avoid that, but in tiny amounts, and I'm taking enough iodine, I'm probably just fine.
Okay.
So, I do notice that sometimes if I eat Panda Express too much, it starts making me tired. So maybe that's soy. I don't know. But it's a good filling meal. It's full of white rice, and I don't mind it.
Oh, I enjoy eating there, and it seems to be one of the healthier choices. I mean, it certainly beats going to McDonald's.
Oh, it's better than the other fast food, and it's quick and it's easy, and it's you can get chopped up fresh chicken there, so it's decently priced. I like it. Let me tell you a little bit about boron. So I was telling you about the 20 milligrams. You can go and get 3 milligram boron pills if you go to the health food store, but you can also buy borax, and you can take that. But if you take borax,
now borax is a laundry detergent.
Very dangerous,
right?
Yeah, but it's not. Yes, it makes the water slippery, which is why it works. But it's basically sodium tetraborate. Okay, so it's sodium and boron, and so that's safe. What's table salt? Sodium chloride. I guarantee you boron is way safer than chloride, and in fact, the lethal dose of boron is something like 100 or 200 teaspoons for a guy that's my size, 200 pounds. You almost have a teaspoon per pound of body weight, and that's what.
How tall are you?
Dose. Not that you can take that; that would kill half the people. I think I'd survive. I am 6'1", and I would never do that. And in fact, if people take more than a quarter of a teaspoon of boron, some people get kidney problems. Because I think it flushes out so many of the other minerals, or maybe you can get a detox reaction. Maybe it's trying to push too much fluoride through the kidneys all at once. People who even take a quarter teaspoon, I've read this online, a quarter teaspoon of the borax laundry detergent in a liter of water, kidney problems. So I have worked up to, and I've taken a whopping teaspoon every single day in my coffee, and it doesn't bother me. But that's because I've done lots of cleansing. I'm very healthy. I drink tons of water, I exercise all the time, and I've worked up to it over the course of a year.
Does it have a taste to it?
Yeah, kind of. When I put it in my coffee, for some reason, it smells like dirty socks. Not very pleasant.
Well, you just brought up an important word: detoxifying or detoxification. What a lot of people don't know is that when they begin a health regimen to try to restore their body to optimum health, that as you're getting healthy, you can actually get worse before you get better. Now,
yes, I discovered that when I first started taking boron over a year ago. I got sick, and it was like my typical cold, but it was not as intense. I felt maybe it was a candida die-off reaction. I had a little bit of athlete's foot that was bothering me, and then it kind of went away. And I'm like, maybe it killed some candida. This is great. Candida reaction, die-off reactions can also happen when you take iodine, and I didn't get that when I took the iodine because I just started borax a month earlier. So yeah, that can happen. But let me tell you what happened last fall in November, about 6 months ago. 7 months ago now. I had done heavy duty bodybuilding because my joints were feeling great. I was feeling healthier than ever, healthier than when I was 23 and ski racing in the prime of my life. All my joint aches and pains went away. My body was getting very well rehabbed. I was doing lots of bodybuilding, and then I quit. And like on the day I quit, I just wanted to take maybe a week off. I started developing this horrible congestion, and the congestion lasted a month. And I looked it up on the iodine forums, and they all said, when you first start taking lots of iodine, what can happen is a healing crisis happens. If you have actually extra energy, the body will use it to heal. So I went through like a month of just horrible coughing and cleansing deep in my lungs and all this stuff, and they're like, no, this is a typical die-off reaction. Don't worry about it. I'm like, oh my God, it's been going on for months. I can't handle this anymore. And so I backed off the iodine, I increased the iodine. I didn't know what to do. But eventually it passed, and man, I feel great. I feel better than ever. And it was around that time that I started the 150 milligrams of iodine every day, and I've been on that ever since. I haven't gotten sick in the last 6 months. I used to get sick 3 and 4 times a year from a horrible, horrible cough. And it feels like it's all gone. Cleansed out.
Wow.
So let's see. If you take the borax, I want to get back to that. If you take a quarter teaspoon of borax, it's 100 milligrams of boron. If you take a full teaspoon of borax, like I've done, that's 400 milligrams of boron. Way too much.
So the boron is in the borax?
Yes, there is boron in borax, but you got to like use micro amounts of it until you can work up like a tiny little pinch between the thumb and the forefinger until you can work up to bigger amounts. And I wanted to take a bigger amount just to test, right, for myself and see what it would do. And the longer I've been on it, the less it gives me any sort of depression. And I think it's because I'm fairly well cleaned out. I think the depression is probably a side effect of fluoride detox. I don't know. I'm just guessing. After a while, you just kind of have to piece these things together because there's very little information.
Now, if we're not drinking city water, where else do we get fluoride from?
Oh, fluoride is fluoride is in regular water. It's in bottled. They actually add it to bottled water, like Dasani, and I don't know if it's in Dasani, but in bottled waters that have brand names.
Well, we purify our own water. My wife bought one of these. It's like the Cadillac of water purifiers. I forget what it's called. The thing ran about $300, but there's no electricity. It's gravity, and you change the filters out like once a year or something. But it's.
I bought myself
Go ahead.
My own distiller. I just haven't hooked it up this year, but it's. I've just been buying distilled water from the store. Not maybe quite as good, but the other one's kind of expensive to run, so whatever. I just drink distilled. But what else is fluoride in? Obviously, it's in toothpaste. They add it to the water. It's in the vast majority of drugs. If you're taking a drug, you should go to Wikipedia.com or .org, right, and look up your drug and look to see if there's a little F atom in the molecule in your drug. Half of, I think, all drugs have fluoride in them. They literally build the drugs synthetically around a fluoride molecule because it somehow keeps it stable. But fluoride is a horrible poison for the body. I wouldn't take any of those things.
I just looked it up. The Royal Berkey, that's the water filter that we use. And in the health community, they say it's the best. I don't know. It's not the most expensive. It isn't cheap. It's $300, and you do have to replace the filters. But I mean, the water does taste quite good. I'm looking at one online right now. Yeah, $283, and you fill it up with tap water, and over the process of a day, it works its way down through the filters, and without any electricity, it's all gravity fed. So that
does that one filter out the fluoride?
Let me see. I've got a page up here. 2 fluoride arsenic filters, set of 2. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so
okay,
it does take out fluoride and arsenic. All else that it does, let's see. With the included black Berkey filters, this powerful system purifies both treated water and untreated raw water from such sources as remote lakes, streams, stagnant ponds, water supplies in foreign countries, where regulations may be substandard at best, perfect for outdoor activities, and a must in hostile environments where electricity, water pressure, or treated water are not available. Removes pathogenic bacteria, cysts, and parasites entirely. Extracts harmful chemicals such as herbicides, pesticides, VOCs, organic solvents, radon-222, and trihalomethanes. It also reduces nitrates and heavy metals such as leads and mercury. The system is so powerful it can remove food coloring from water without removing the beneficial minerals your body needs. Virtually no other system can duplicate the performance. Now, this is research. My wife, she's been in the natural health, natural healing field since I met her 36 years ago. She worked for a chiropractor at the time. But she taught me about wheatgrass juice. Do you drink wheatgrass juice?
I have done that from time to time. The only place I know where to get it is Jamba Juice. But yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to find. When I met her in San Diego, across the street from her chiropractor's office, on the back porch of this house, was sort of like a little wheatgrass cooperative. And the people that lived in the house, they had all these trays of wheatgrass growing on the back porch. It was a screened-in back porch, and you would just go around back, let yourself in. You would snip off however much you wanted to put in the juicer, and you would run it and do it yourself. And then you would leave your donation in the cup. And it was one of those carryover. I mean, this was the late 70s in San Diego, still a carryover from the 60s. And at the time I met my wife, she was a vegetarian, and she taught me how to be a vegetarian, and then I taught her how to be a meat eater. And then she got on the Atkins diet, where you eat nothing but meat and fat, all the stuff that you were told to stay away from. She lost a tremendous amount of weight the first time she got on it. But then she got off of it, and then, the second and third time around, it's like it didn't work as well. But she's so well versed in all of these things. If I would listen to her more, I would be in better health, I know. But I do listen.
So you got the iodine just a couple of months ago. Has your wife tried the iodine yet?
I would have to ask her. I'm not sure if she's utilizing it or not, but she probably is.
Women have very big iodine needs because it concentrates not only in the thyroid but in the sex organs and in the breast. So women, when they have children, the children tend to naturally pull iodine out of the body. They need it. It's absolutely vital, and so they kind of get the priority. So unless we're replenishing the iodine, I think postpartum depression is probably an iodine deficiency.
That's the first time I've heard depression and iodine related.
Yeah, they are. You can look it up. Google's amazing. Type in depression and iodine, and all sorts of resources start.
Well, I got to tell you, the last time I went to see the naturopathic doctor, they gave me something that I'd never heard of, and I was so blown away. I was like, I've got to try this. They're tarantula pills. Have you heard of this?
Oh, you told me that last time. No, I haven't heard of that. That sounds crazy. Go ahead, talk.
They're little bitty tiny things, and you got to be careful when you shake them out of this special little bottle, because you'll lose them. Tarantula pills. Let me just see.
Are they homeopathic?
Yeah,
tarantula pills? Okay. Like little sugar pills, like little tiny ones in a blue container.
Tarantula. Yeah, my wife called them sugar pills the other day. Tarantula homeopathy. Let me just click on this real quick. Tarantula is a homeopathic medication that is prepared from the species in genus Tarantula that includes a cluster of hairy and unusually very big arachnids that belong
What do you notice when you start taking these? Because you're raving about them. So tell me what you notice.
Well, I honestly haven't really noticed anything. That's the thing.
I thought you were going to say this is the greatest thing. You haven't noticed anything?
No.
Why are you thinking it up?
Nevertheless, long back, people were of the view that any individual bitten by the spider may suffer from ailments that may result in either mania or depression. Okay. However, the fact is that when you are taking the homeopathic medication prepared from tarantula, you will never witness any of the above-mentioned symptoms. Down here it says the homeopathic medicine is prepared by macerating the entire body of the live spider in alcohol and then left for some time.
Okay. Do you mind if I give you my opinion on?
Oh yeah, sure, absolutely.
I don't believe it at all.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I'll tell you why. I just told you that I believe in deficiencies. Mm-hmm. So like people who are on the USRDA of iodine at 150 micrograms are probably deficient. I'm taking 1,000 times as much. I'm getting better results than I've ever had. So, for me, yeah, I kind of believe in more is better, and especially solving deficiencies. But homeopathy would be like taking not 150 micrograms, but taking, say, 15 micrograms and then diluting the hell out of it in this huge, huge vat of water, and then taking that water and somehow infusing the water into sugar pills that don't have any water left at all. That makes utterly no sense.
Well, homeopathy in general, is that something that you buy into, believe in?
I don't buy into homeopathy at all. It sounds like complete and utter nonsense.
Interesting.
It sounds, because, look, more iodine is better, less iodine is worse. If you finally take too much iodine, yeah, you can poison yourself and maybe die.
Now, how do you know, what symptom will your body... What symptom will your body kick out if you're getting too much iodine?
Maybe some digestive upset in the stomach lining. It's a little bit, I guess, caustic or burny a little bit. If you put it on the skin, it can, like on an open cut, it can help heal the cut, but it does burn and sting a little bit. I don't think I'm even remotely close to the amounts that would kill you, because people have tried to commit suicide by drinking an entire bottle of Lugol's, and they most often fail. Like 95% of them fail if they drink an entire bottle of Lugol's 6%. So in the United States, it's sort of legally mandated that it has to be 2% to prevent death. So that means you can drink an entire bottle of Lugol's at 2% and not die. That's really safe, considering how much we're taking, like drops of it at a time.
Right.
And we're on mega doses of drops of it at a time. So this stuff is super ultra safe. It's ridiculous. But yet the medical establishment says that anything over 1 gram is going to be dangerous. That's utterly preposterous. In the olden days, people would take up to 6 grams a day, or 6,000 milligrams of iodine in case of emergency. And I'm taking 150 milligrams. What I'm doing is mild compared to the 6,000 milligrams people used to take. In other words, dose is everything, okay? That's what I believe. Dose is everything. This whole homeopathy says dose doesn't matter. And in fact, let's dilute it to the point where there's nothing there. That's witchcraft and asinity. I don't believe it at all. So
I've always kind of struggled with it too, but
yeah,
it's something that my wife believes in, and I believe in my wife. I've been with her 36 years, so I've just kind of went along for the ride, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, of all the frauds in the world, I think homeopathy is probably not a specifically dangerous one. It's relatively benign.
Yeah.
Right? There are a lot of frauds out there that will really hurt you. That's not one that will probably... I don't think homeopathy could hurt you except for the money that you wasted on the stuff. But on the other hand, doctors' medicines, those are killing people.
Oh my goodness!
Seriously, killing people. I think doctors are killing about 1 million people a year in this country. It's probably the #1 most deadly profession out there. There's about 1 million doctors in the country. They probably kill, on average, 1 person per year from their practices.
Now, is that from overprescribing, misprescribing, or what do you?
100,000 people. 100,000 people die each year from medicines properly prescribed and properly taken. That should be
why is that?
That's 10% of it. Because the medicines are deadly.
Okay.
Because the medicines have side effects. Because they kill, like something like 25,000 people die just from aspirin every year.
Really?
If aspirin were brand new and they tried to introduce it, oh yeah, really. If aspirin were brand new and they tried to introduce it, it would go nowhere. Aspirin causes bleeding. People bleed to death from stomach ulcers from taking aspirin. People have, bleed out from brain issues. People bleed out from heart attacks. All that stuff.
Another widely prescribed medication is blood pressure medicine. And have you ever had any issues with blood pressure?
I have. When I checked into rehab, my blood pressure was about 146 over 95 or something. And
that was due to your health or the stress of what you were going through at the time?
It was due to stress, but also I wasn't regularly working out. And at rehab, they forced us to work out for an hour 6 days a week. And that force is kind of a bad word to use. It was more like it's expected. If you're told that it's expected, you feel ashamed if you don't go. Some people felt more shame than others. Some of us went more than other people did. But so the point is, after a month, my blood pressure went all the way down to 115 over 70, which is like
wow, that's excellent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they say sitting is the new smoking.
Really, huh?
They say sitting is the new smoking. They got everybody to quit smoking, but now people need to, because I know that I spend the greatest part of my day sitting behind a desk.
I don't know if that's true. Show me the control group.
Yeah. Well, I think, some exercise, some, even if it's just walking, you don't have to become a beast in the gym, but I think my wife has one of these things she bought. It's called, I think on TV, on the infomercials, they call it a glider. She bought it on Craigslist for pennies on the dollar. Yeah. But she spends, she probably goes somewhere between 5 and 10 miles a day on that thing. She's got one of those Fitbit watches that tracks. She really works hard at maintaining her health, and so that's a great source of encouragement for me.
Yeah, no, movement is really, really good. But
our kids who we adopted,
I get skeptical really quick because think about how many claims have been made that are just flat out not true. Paper money is a fraud. Almost everything the medical establishment does is a fraud and hurts the body. The medical establishment is against iodine. That makes no sense. Fluoride is in the water. That's fraud. They banned boron in Australia. Thankfully, it's not banned here yet. But the establishment is wicked, and the things that we hear are horrible. So I really am taking everything with a grain of salt these days and I want to research everything because we live in the age of lies. Really, sitting's going to kill us? Did they control for people who are on prescription meds and take 70% of the people out of the sample? They control for people who are taking fluoride and take those people out of the sample. I mean, who's left? I mean, are there even enough people like me that they could even study to say that sitting is bad? Maybe it's all the other stuff. Maybe it's all the other 300 chemicals they're all bombarding us with.
Right.
Maybe it's because everybody else is iodine deficient. There could be, and there are so many causes out there. How do you isolate for the cause? Maybe sitting isn't bad for us as long as we take care of everything else.
Yeah.
I work out about every other day.
Now, working out, is that running? Is that lifting weights? Is that what is your definition of working out?
So I do weights about every other day. About 5 nights a week, I do a full body isometric stretching massage. So, and then I have other activities. So sometimes I do work out 3 times a day. So but I sit a lot. But
so have you
I sit a lot, but on the other hand, if I'm exercising 3 times a day, I don't sit a lot. What can I say? I have a computer.
Have you reached
I spend a lot of time like you do.
Have you reached a point where you feel healed, or are you still on a journey towards optimum health?
I feel as if I am healthier than I've ever been in my life on a wide range of, on a very wide range of things that I could talk about. My joint pain is nearly non-existent. Only if maybe I don't do a green smoothie over 10 days and slack off, right? And then I developed a little bit of thing in my lower back. Gosh, I don't have any mouth sores that I used to have, like little mouth ulcers.
Mm-hmm.
I had those a lot from when I was from 20 to 40. Yeah, where'd those go?
I had those as a kid, but I haven't as an adult.
I had a blotchy patch on my back for about 2 years when I was about 40, 41 that was candida and was diagnosed as a fungal. They gave me some prescribed fungals, and I never took them. I just simply bought a bunch of herbs that were antifungals, and it kind of went away within about 3 days, but I was still drinking alcohol, so it kept coming back. So getting rid of alcohol and getting on iodine and boron, that's like distant past and finally has gone away, but there's still traces of it in me. I could tell, like if I eat sugar, it maybe flares up a little bit. But I try to keep the sugar out. What else? I feel young and as strong as I did when I was better than maybe 23 at times. In my 30s, I got really strong and lifted weights for about 3 years consistently, and I was relatively alcohol-free in that period, and I got really strong. I suppose I might be approaching those levels of strength in my mid-30s, and here I am, I'm 46. So, with bodybuilding, you got to kind of stick with it for a couple of years to really continue to gain the strength, and if you don't do it for a while, you lose. So, I'm regaining that strength.
So the drinking crisis really came later in life for you, not so much as a
They did.
college
I
kid.
had a few years of sobriety a couple of times, but it was around the trauma. In the year when I was 41 that I really drank too much that year.
I have a friend who I remember back in the days when him and his wife and my wife and I, we did everything together. We went to dinner together. We were the couple that hang out together. And he knew that he was drinking too much. He was also gambling too much. But with the drinking, he would keep track of the number of drinks that he had over the course of a week, and he was always trying to manage his drinking. And at the time, I never thought of counting the number of drinks that I had. I just drank, and I always wondered why he was so obsessed with counting the number of drinks. But I just heard the other day, I haven't seen him in a few years, he's got cirrhosis of the liver.
So, well, you got the best of them. Well, with drinking, there's blackouts. Have you ever had a blackout from drinking too much?
Back in the day, yes.
So when you black out, you can no longer count.
Back in the day, when I was young and in the Navy, blacking out was the way of life.
Right. So I had at least maybe 11 to maybe 20 blackouts. I think I had about 11 or 12, 13, 14 until the last year, and I don't know exactly how many I had that year. So I had maybe 20, 25 blackouts.
It's pretty scary when you wake up and you don't remember coming home, and you go outside and you look at the front end of your car to make sure there's no blood or patches of clothing, because you don't know whether you might have hit somebody on the way home or not because you don't remember coming home. That is that should be a turning point for any rational human being.
Well, that's the thing, is that we're not. Here's the thing: it's hard for me to grasp the fact that as much as I want to be a rational human being, we're not rational. Rational is, always doing the right thing. We often do the wrong thing simply because it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
That's a symptom of our condition of being a, we are both rational thinkers and deep feelers. And I think it's important to both respect the feelings, because they're like a sixth sense. They can, when you're sober, I think your feelings are a lot more clear and a lot more rational and based on more valid inputs. The trouble with alcohol is because it feels good. It's tricking your body into thinking that it's good for you. It's not. How do we know something's good for us? We eat it. If we feel better, we say, hey, this is good for us.
Mm-hmm.
With alcohol, it's the exact opposite. We know it's bad for us, but we eat it and it makes us feel better. Same with sugar. Kids get a sugar high, it lights up the brain. It's like cocaine. It gives us an initial rush, but it feeds all the wrong things in the body.
Well, my wife and I, we adopted late in life. Long story behind the adoption of the kids. We used to have a shelter for battered women and abused children, but these
great.
kids, their bio mom was actively addicted when they were both born, but so there's some issues, but they're both really bright, brilliant, musically inclined. Really, aside from the minor issues, but my wife has had them on since they've been with us full time, which would be, I guess, the last 5 years. Gabe was with us 2 years, and then he was back with bio mom for a year, and then he's been back. And we officially adopted him about 5 years ago, I guess it was. Anyway, their diet is pretty much organic. No white flour, no white sugar, and I know it's kind of difficult for them. My wife's trying to teach it to them as a lifestyle. She's certainly not trying to punish them. But when we go to social events or parties and all the other kids are gobbling down fistfuls of candy and soda pop and cake, I mean, my wife's not, heartless. I mean, if it's a birthday, they get to have a piece of cake, but, it's a small piece, and it's, I mean, their health, they're so vibrant. I mean, they never need to go to the doctor. And I know so many people with kids who are, even though they're kids and they should be healthy, I mean, they're always going to the doctor. They're always sick. They've always got a runny nose. They've always got, some kind of issue or problem. And if people don't understand that, what you put in your body is so important. From food to supplements. I have two kids that are ages 6 and 8, and they've never been vaccinated. And I just started giving them iodine in the last year, and I don't really think they've gotten sick in the last year. They used to get sick a lot more often. Even though they weren't vaccinated, they were always just a lot of little small colds and being stuffed up in the nose and things like that. And I try to, I don't want to completely deprive them of the joys of life, I believe in a little bit of moderation, I just always, it's a mantra, too much sugar is bad for us, but let's have some sometimes. What's your feeling on milk?
Kids have different metabolisms than adults, Carbs are bad for us, but kids, they thrive on carbs. They burn it off. They need the energy. My kids, they're so skinny and lean, it's almost like I'll let them eat anything that they can as long as they're putting food in their body.
Both of my kids are very thin. Now, my son, he's 15. He's in junior ROTC. He just came back from a 4-day camping trip where they did all kind of endurance runs and climbing and stuff, and he excelled at everything. Although he's slight, he's not. He doesn't look like a football player. He looks more like the saxophone player that he is. But when they put him up against some of the bigger kids, he outperformed in a lot of ways. So. Yeah.
So the thing about milk is a very, very controversial topic. I guess the paleo guys don't like it, right? But I have found it to be really good. I remember I was eating so super healthy and even avoiding milk for about 6 months, lots of greens. And then one day I said, fuck it, let's have some ice cream. Excuse my language. I had some ice cream with my buddy who was also eating the same way. And the following day, we both reported, we called each other on the phone. I'm like, I'm so much stronger today than I've ever been. He said, same with me. I had this huge burst of strength the following day. What did we do different? And we were like, it's the ice cream. It's the ice cream. What the heck is in ice cream that made us so much stronger? There are so many positive, healthy things in milk. It's not just the calcium and the protein, but there's GMAF and there's like colostrum, and even it's an amazing food.
Yeah.
There's this thing called the Budwig protocol, which is anti-cancer protocol, which is basically cottage cheese and flax. And we all know yogurt is one of the most high probiotic healthy foods that's out there. So
yeah, I was going to ask, what do you do as far as probiotics?
Superfood. Well, I think you get like 1,000 times more probiotics from yogurt and from sauerkraut than you do from the pills.
Sauerkraut.
So you really don't need the pills.
I didn't know that about sauerkraut. My wife loves
sauerkraut and yogurt are the top 2 probiotic foods, and those will replace all your probiotic needs by far. Again, dose is everything. So if sauerkraut and yogurt are 1,000 times more powerful, what need do I have of homeopathy, which is 1,000,000 times or 1,000,000,000 trillion times diluted? It makes no sense.
Well, there's so many probiotic commercials on TV today. I
don't watch TV, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. You don't watch TV?
I do not watch TV at all. None. It's been that way for probably 10 years. No, 5 years. 5 years. Last 5 years. I watch movies. But not TV.
Okay. Well, what brought that on?
Don't even have it in the house.
The decision to not watch TV. What brought that on?
Since I got sober, I just found it's not just mindless entertainment. It's harmful entertainment. It's propaganda. It's brainwashing. It's depressing. The commercials are bad. The TV is bad. It's pharmaceutical ads. It's news brainwashing. It's leftist claptrap. It's worse than nonsense. It's outright lies. Take the time and go on the internet and learn something real and beneficial and helpful for yourself and be a better person. Or if you want entertainment, there's tons of movies. I have Netflix. It's commercial free.
Right.
And movies are, there's a lot of movies that still rub me the wrong way. The more I get educated, the more I know, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this whole movie is an ad for pharmaceuticals. Or it's an advertisement. The worst thing about the medical establishment is not that they prescribe all these poisons and they kill people, but they tell people your disease is incurable. How dare they tell people that? How dare they? They don't know. They only don't know the cure. They should say, we don't know the cure for that. That would be at least halfway accurate. But that's also not true. They do know the cure. They're suppressing them. Getting me started.
Well, I mean, the pharmaceutical commercials that are on TV today, if it's a 60-second spot, you're going to get about, maybe 15 seconds of what the medication is supposed to do for you, and the other 45 seconds are going to warn you about all the body parts that may potentially fall off, or that you may just die from taking the medication. I mean, that speaks volumes right there.
It should, but 70% of people are taking those things. So, people
really
aren't
are.
listening to the disclaimers. They're not. Or they think they're somehow immune or whatever. I don't know what the deal is. I never really liked medicines. My father didn't, but his medicine of choice was alcohol. He died from alcoholism. He bled out in, what year was this? 2004, from cirrhosis of the liver. And that wasn't enough to get me to quit drinking. Very insidious disease. Alcohol tricks the brain, man. What can I say? Makes us feel good. Alcohol works. So another thing is not just keeping yourself strong, but learning ways to relax. Turning off the TV, taking a massage, hot bath, lavender, just kicking it, slowing down.
Yeah, the big thing today is being mindful and meditation, but not the meditation that we were taught, back in the 60s and 70s, but just watching your stream of consciousness, not judging it, that kind of thing. Do you practice any type of yoga or meditation or anything like that?
Well, the yoga that I do is sort of a self yoga. I call it, it's an isometric stretch and massage, and I do that every night for about a half an hour. That's very vigorous. I'm often winded when I'm done. So to do this, what I do is I stretch the muscle, then I flex the muscle while it is stretched, and it gets like rock hard. Okay, and I take this rock hard muscle that is both stretched and flexed, and I massage it as strongly as I can. It's very vigorous. I do that with every single muscle in the body. It takes a while. So, for example, take the lunge, right? The lunge will stretch out your front hip flexor. So that's yoga. So I'll be doing a lunge, but I will then take the back leg that's straight, and I will take it into the ground and actively tense and flex that front muscle. Then I will massage it vigorously, deeply. But then I will also, there's a couple other little tweaks with that one that I can do to really, really stretch it. So what you do is you sort of rotate the pelvis forward, and then you round the lower back out instead of arch it, and then you'll get a super deep stretch in that one. And yeah, I don't know if that's, I guess I must be a master yogi or something, because I haven't heard anybody else do that kind of a thing, but it's very vigorous. I have learned that isometric stretching shouldn't be done more than 3 times a week, but I feel as if I have broken through quite a few layers of health with like iodine and boron that are atypical. So just because I have a good memory and somebody says don't do it more than 3 times a week, well, I needed to test that out for myself. So
has this been a journey
4 or 5 times a week.
Has this been a journey of self-discovery for you, or have you followed someone, some book, some guru, anything?
I get advice from everywhere. I test it out. I research both the positives and I research what the naysayers are saying. I research the testimonials. I try to find testimonials in multiple locations, so they're not just made up testimonials. They can be there. People who, with websites, they make their. So one of the great places for testimonials is Amazon.com, surprisingly enough, because they're all written by individual people. There are like 1,000 testimonials on Amazon.com for things like iodine and B12 and vitamin D and hydrogen peroxide. You can't fake that when there's 1,000 of them. That's crazy. I don't care how busy you are trying to pipe your own product. You're not going to fake 1,000 testimonials. So that's a really valid source of information that isn't being pressed and absolutely blows doors on the information suppression being practiced by the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, that is really bad. I mean, they're really caught up in this current opioid epidemic that's sweeping the nation.
Yeah, the top 3 meds, I want to go over that. The top 3 classes of medications are painkillers, including opioid, antibiotics, and the third one is these antidepressants. Iodine and boron fixes all 3 of those. Boron and DMSO will fix the pain. Iodine and boron are both antibiotics, and iodine is an antidepressant. So iodine and boron, those 2 things will wipe out the top 3 classes of medicines being prescribed by the medical establishment. I'm 100% confident in what I just said.
Iodine and boron.
Yes.
Yeah, until recently, when my doctor suggested the iodine, I had never heard of. I think I
you
had
got iodine from your doctor?
I think I had an aunt when I was a little kid. She took care of me and my little brother most of the time. She had a medicine cabinet, and I think in that medicine cabinet was some iodine, mercurochrome, and methylate, and that was for scrapes and cuts and things of that nature. But since then, up until this doctor suggested it, I didn't know it was a thing, honestly. And this thing.
You got iodine from your doctor? Let me back up. You got iodine from your doctor?
Well, he suggested that I go to the health food store and buy the Luigi's or whatever that brand name is that you mentioned.
Yeah, the Lugol's. And what did you suggest it for? What did you suggest it for?
Overall mental health and well-being.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Calmness,
I have read
you
that there's
know.
only about 100 iodine literate doctors in the country, and there's about 1 million doctors, or 900,000 doctors. And there's only 100 iodine literate practitioners that prescribe the high iodine protocol with Lugol's.
And I got to tell you,
Lugol's has been around for 200
this guy
years,
probably went to
still.
medical school 50 years ago.
Oh, maybe that is part of it.
Maybe
because,
60 years ago. I don't even.
Do you realize Lugol's used to be the #1 antibiotic in the country until the age of antibiotics began right after World War II.
Huh. I did not know that.
Yeah. Yep.
So this is quite a
also
journey.
Colloidal silver, you may have heard that colloidal silver is a very powerful antibiotic.
You know, I had a friend
like
who used to own Desert Health Products. They've been out of business for some time, and one of the products that they sold and carried and promoted was colloidal silver. Yeah, and so I took it a few times, but I never got serious about it. Is it good, bad? What do you think?
Colloidal silver works. There's science behind it, that it knocks out 600 and plus different pathogens. If you type in colloidal silver and MRSA, there will be testimonials from people who've killed their MRSA with colloidal silver. The medical establishment doesn't know what to do with MRSA. They can't kill MRSA because all they have are their fungal antibiotics, which it's resistant to. That's
the skin-eating disease. Is it?
Huh? It's a skin disease.
Yeah.
It's a rotting flesh disease because they can't kill it.
Okay. Yeah.
So somebody just told me on Facebook last week they had MRSA for years. Doctors couldn't get rid of it. They tried everything. Finally, they tried colloidal silver. Within a week, it was totally healed. So yeah, the stuff works. I've heard from people who had like Lyme disease or horrible things that were even on iodine, and it wasn't killing it until they got on iodine and colloidal silver, and then they were cured like within a week. So a lot of times, maybe the colloidal silver won't work by itself. Maybe it needs somebody who's also taking some iodine. I believe in the synergy of these things, and taking the right dose can really have a very powerful effect. So I'm not worried about MRSA. You know, MRSA kills maybe 100,000 people, 50,000 to 100,000 people a year. It's a huge indictment on the medical establishment because 85% of people catch MRSA in hospitals, and they can't kill it. and
yeah, that's what I've heard. That's where most people get it, is when they're in the hospital for some other reason.
And why don't the hospitals prescribe colloidal silver and iodine for MRSA? That's horrible indictment upon them.
Because
we're living in the age of butchery. The medical establishment is literally 100-year-old technology. Forget all the studies they're doing now. It's worthless because all they prescribe are poisonous medicines. They don't prescribe nutritious medicine like iodine. You're lucky you got it from your doctor. That's amazing.
Now, I know I brought up the word, but member of the audience said, can you tell us more about mindfulness? So, like I say, I mentioned that word, but I'm sure you're familiar with the concept. Can you go into some detail on it?
Well, it's been recommended to me that I should look into it. I really haven't, so I shouldn't talk about it yet. That's about all I can say.
Okay. Well, my very rudimentary understanding of it, and I'm going to see if I can get a textbook definition. Mindfulness is simply, taking a few minutes to, it can be 5 minutes a day, or, and then they say you work your way up, where instead of in meditation, the meditation that was taught in like the 60s and whatnot was you either tried to clear the mind of all thoughts, or you were to focus on one thing, one object, a flower, a lotus, or something. But the business of mindfulness is to simply allow yourself to sit quietly and observe your thoughts, the stream of consciousness that's always running in your mind, to just sit and watch it and not be judgeful of it. Don't, try to stop it and say, oh, I got to fix that, or, but to just sit, and it's like sitting on the side of the road and watching the traffic go by. Oh, that was a red car. That was a blue car.
I laugh because I was just about ready to say, don't we do this all anytime we're driving anyway?
Yeah,
watching traffic.
Perhaps. The dictionary definition I got back was the quality or state of being consciousness or aware of something. A mental state achieved by focusing one's awareness on the present moment while calmly acknowledging and accepting one's feelings, thoughts, and bodily sensation, used as a therapeutic technique.
I really do try to pay attention to my body on a regular basis, and I always have. Maybe other people don't do that as much. I don't know.
Well,
I was a former competitive athlete, so go ahead.
While mindfulness is something we all naturally possess, it's more readily available to us when we practice on a daily basis. Whenever you bring awareness to what you're directly experiencing via your senses or your state of mind, via your thoughts and emotions, you're being mindful. And there's growing research showing that when you train your brain to be mindful, and a doggone ad pops up right in the middle of what I'm reading, Google's supposedly going to fix that.
Breaking your mindful.
Yeah, and there's growing research showing that when you train your brain to be mindful, you're actually remodeling the physical structure of the brain.
Right. It's like I think I do that naturally, and it's like adding a whole other layer of consciousness to your thoughts.
I'm going to put a link in the chat box, guys, for anyone who is interested in the concept. It's not tied to any kind of religion or sect or anything at all. It's just out there. And I do see a video on this page that I just gave you the link to. Video, watch You Are Not Your Thoughts. And the video's title is Who Are You? And Who Should Practice Mindfulness? So I think that's a pretty good link for anybody that's interested and wants to get started. I know I tried the traditional types of meditation many years ago, clearing the mind. I mean, I could do that for about 3 seconds. And I could focus on the, lotus blossom for about, or candle for about 3 seconds before my mind took off in another direction. And I think, like most people, I just got frustrated with not feeling that I was making any progress or having any success, and just, moved on.
So let me tell you, when I was a ski racer, I had a fairly wise father who signed me up for some relaxation and meditation visualization classes. So they taught us how to use our brain to actively relax our body through a process. So it was like meditation. But we would do active guided visualization during the meditation to visualize yourself in a ski course. So you would try to do it in real time and try to take about a minute to visualize yourself going down the course to practice.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was said that this is a good way to train the brain to actually do what you want to do slightly different and learn technique in your mind before you do it. So in sports, I think people are doing this a lot already, not in every sport, but in skiing particularly, because there's a lot of technique involved. So I also did, so in slalom courses, in skiing, we would have to memorize the entire slalom course. And I tried to do races with and without it. And it was always a little bit better with it, but man, it was mentally tough to do it. So as I got better at it, I would try to maybe only memorize the difficult parts of the course, the tricky gate, rather than the entire course. So I had a lot of practice with that kind of meditation and visualization and relaxation.
Yeah. I think that.
And it's not so. From what you're saying and talking to me about mindfulness, I think it's those are parts of it that I think gave me an extra layer of awareness from a young age, just from my ski racing experiences. But also as an athlete, I'd always have to. I would always try to do more than my fellow competitors. So I got into bodybuilding when I was about 18 to gain leg strength for my competitive edge. So bodybuilding teaches you things like, well, how sore are you, and are you ready for the next workout? And often I would be working out during the ski season. So paying attention to what I can handle and how much I can do next in the gym was I think vital to being able to progress in my sport. So I think I did a lot of that already. I probably could use a little bit more of it these days, but what am I going to think about? I don't know.
Well, this has been an incredibly fascinating discussion on the journey that you've been through over the past few years. I'm curious, on this new website that you're working on, which I think you said Joint Pain Fixed. Was that the name of it? It's not up yet.
Yeah,
Fixed?
FIX jointpain.com, and it's been up and running for a year.
Oh, okay. I typed it in wrong. It's fixjointpain.com. Okay, let me try
I'm just not selling anything there. I'm just not selling anything there yet. Maybe I'll get to that next week.
I
gotta go pick up my kids today.
Are you telling your story there?
My story is told quite in depth about how I eliminated joint pains and injuries all throughout my body, how I discovered the combination of greens and stretching, how I discovered my zinc deficiency, and I think there's a little bit in there about boron, but I haven't yet gotten to iodine. But I have written on Facebook a whole iodine article that I could probably copy and paste over. I've been trying to get to some of those topics on this conversation now, and I'd like to brings my mindfulness awareness to one more topic, and that is iodine in the research fixes 180 different forms of conditions, harmful conditions that have been noted with the parallel with iodine deficiency. And of course, it also, and those things, that iodine deficiency, those 180 conditions, also show up with fluoride toxicity. And iodine kicks out the fluoride. So iodine helps up to 180 different conditions in the body. About 14 of them are mental conditions and issues. And it ranges all over the place, like from glaucoma to tension to muscle aches and pains to hemorrhoids, and just the list goes on and on and on. It's unbelievable how many things that iodine helps.
Now,
iodine oxygenates the whole body.
Is there any natural sources of? Where else do you get iodine besides from?
Great question.
Lugos.
Great question. The high iodine doctors identified that question, and the primary source is seaweed. If you eat an entire seaweed salad every day, you might get about 13 milligrams of iodine. I'm taking 10 times as much as that, 150 milligrams, right? So, besides seaweed, the only other top two sources of iodine might give you 1 milligram, and that's either from a full glass of cranberry juice, or Himalayan salt. Himalayan salt has far more iodine than even iodized salt. So three sources: seaweed, salt, cranberry.
Remember, the audience asked, isn't iodine or radioiodine used to treat radiation
one of the
poisoning?
problems from radiation is that radioactive iodine is released. And of course, most people are iodine deficient, so that their thyroid gland is going to soak up the radioactive iodine, it's going to lodge in the thyroid, and then it's going to irradiate the thyroid, and that is the number one killer from radiation. So the dose we're told to take in the event of a nuclear disaster is 130 milligrams of iodine in one iodine pill, and they say that should last you about a day to a week. And you need to take that upon as quickly as you can to saturate the thyroid so it won't absorb the radioactive iodine, because it will already have enough regular iodine in it. So it acts as a protective mechanism that way. And I've been taking that dose daily for 6 months with selenium, which protects the thyroid from getting oxygenated, and it protects you against, of course, selenium deficiency.
Yeah, I need to make a note and ask my wife about the selenium. Also,
are you taking like a multi-mineral? Selenium might be in a multi-mineral, but not usually.
Could be.
Selenium also boosts your testosterone, by the way.
Oh, really?
Benefits of getting healthy. Yeah.
Well, this doctor, the one that recommended the iodine, he also did a DNA test on me. He said it was something new for his office, and so they did a cheek swab and they sent it off, and a month later or more, this report came back, and I mean, it was, I don't know, the report was probably 50, 75 typewritten pages, and the doctor read through it, and he said the only red flag that he saw in there was that I was potentially susceptible to Alzheimer's or the early onset, and that what I should do to combat that is to make sure that I take B vitamin every day. Now, problem is I can't remember if he said B complex or B12, so I take both.
The other thing for aluminum and Alzheimer's, because if aluminum is causing Alzheimer's, is silica helps to detox aluminum. Silica is one of the minerals that is basically sand, right? But it can be micro-dissolved in water as well. Another name for it is diatomaceous earth.
Oh, diatomaceous earth. We used to buy that at the dollar store and spread it around the walls in the office when we were in a basement in downtown Phoenix. It kills roaches.
Right. Kills ants. Yeah, it cuts their exoskeleton so they kind of like bleed to death.
But it's good for people.
Their joints and kills them. Yeah, you can actually ingest it yourself, like up to a tablespoon at a time. I don't like doing it. It's not, I think, a very super powerful detox. I think it's probably been oversold in the health community. But I think if you're high in aluminum, maybe it's good for that in particular. Another name for it is zeolites, but that might be a different style.
Yeah.
Of diatomaceous earth. I'm not exactly sure what the difference is. The health ranger, Mike Adams at Natural News, he kind of downplays their effectiveness. He thinks that other foods are better. He has done a stomach simulation chemistry test and determined how much things absorb toxins. And his research shows that, of all things, strawberries absorb the most mercury within the stomach sample, 99% of it.
Strawberries.
Yeah. Something about strawberry fiber, man. They just absorb mercury in the gut. So there you go.
Wow. I got to tell you, Jason, this has been an incredibly fascinating discussion. You've given us so much information, and you know, it's not something you get out of a book. It's something that you've actually lived, and to me that just lends so much credibility. And as a disclaimer, I should say that Jason and I are neither one medical doctors, and anything that was suggested on today's show, you should do your own research. Just as Jason said he did. Do your own due diligence, and because ultimately you are responsible for your own health. No one else is. So.
To have a license for medicine, what we need to avoid doing is we're not supposed to diagnose anybody else's thing, and we're not supposed to prescribe medicine.
Right.
I'm not prescribing medicine. We talked about health foods, and we talked about minerals and vitamins, and we didn't diagnose anybody. So we're not violating any sort of, we're not stepping off of any medical toes.
Is there any chance, question from the audience, that I think it's related to the iodine, is there any chance that would overtax the kidneys?
Well, I did mention how boron could overtax the kidneys if you jump up to even a quarter of a teaspoon of the powdered borax, because that would be 100 milligrams of boron. And people have reported kidney problems from that.
Okay.
In the testimonials that I've read. So, and I've taken 4 times as much, not had problem, but I worked up to it slowly, and I was fairly clear. I don't think that iodine would necessarily tax the kidneys, but they do the same kind of a thing. And the iodine people, they say the same thing, slowly work up the dose. So if you're taking iodine for the first day, it's 1 drop, then it's 2 drops, then it's 4 drops, 8 drops, and if you have a problem, back off. Feeling yucky, back off, more water, particularly salt water. On the 3rd day that I took iodine, I began to develop a little bit of an iodine headache. I never get headaches, so it was like a buzzing in my head. I'm like, what is this? So they suggest salt water because it helps to theoretically ease through some of the detox pain that people tend to be experiencing. And sure enough, as soon as I had some salt water, I felt instantly better, and the iodine-induced headache went right away. Long answer, but yeah.
Your Facebook page, is that your privacy settings or whatever? Is it open to the public?
It is. I have 1,000 followers and about
well, if that's the case, I'm gonna drag it over so that folks can see facebook.com/jason.hommel, and
that's it.
I love your Superman shirt. That's pretty awesome.
Thanks.
And
my brother got that one for me. And I've got the Superman curls, so it's funny. I got the square jaw, so it works. People have always said I look like Clark Kent my whole life, so there we go. Why not play it up?
Is that your library that you're sitting in at the desk?
Yeah, I'm looking at the library right now in my
Boy, you're a well-read man. I see. I was wondering what you do with all the hours in the day if you don't watch any TV, but obviously you read your students.
I actually haven't been reading a lot of those books lately. A lot of what I've talked about today, I've learned from internet research. There's a lot of smart people out there that like to, put their knowledge together in concise format that is very useful. It's just using the internet. You have to know what to look for. That's half the battle. If you don't know what you're looking for, stuff won't come up. I mean, with regards to iodine, for example, there's only 100 doctors in the country that are iodine literate. So I was so surprised when you said you learned it from your doctor. You said he'd been practicing for 50 years, so that kind of explains it a little bit. But a lot of this stuff is so rare, you never hear it.
Why does that
so
explain
how do you know what to look for?
Because it used to be something that was recommended?
Yeah, iodine is totally safe. It's been around for 200 years, How did it suddenly get dangerous to the point where 6 million micrograms was a standard dose for emergencies, but now anything over 150 micrograms is dangerous? That makes no sense. It's active information suppression is what it is. Let's put them out of business. We wouldn't need antibiotics.
The pharmaceutical industry, I mean, that's big business, that's big money. And
well, you know who funded Big Pharma, don't you? It was the paper money guys. The paper money gang all funded Big Pharma. And they funded Big Pharma from the beginning, the whole drugging and cutting methods of healing.
Right.
Over 100 years ago, the Rockefellers did that, not because it was the superior form of healing, but because they could make the most money off of it. It was all about money. And it probably suits their needs because it also, if they're poisoning us, we're not going to rise up and overthrow the usurer class. It ties right in together. It's gold and silver. Gold and silver are suppressed just as iodine and colloidal silver are suppressed. By the same groups.
Wow. So you've been on an incredible journey, and I thank you for sharing it with us. Where do you see this journey taking you? Where's Jason a year from now, 5 years from now?
Telling a lot more people.
Really? Do you think that's going to become your life's focus, sharing what you've learned?
In the last 2 episodes, as much as I can, yeah. There's a lot there, and it's desperately needed. And
I agree. That's what I'm saying. What you shared today.
I don't know how to make money at it. I just know that if I work at it diligently, the money may well come. I'm not exactly sure. That's how I started in the silver and gold business. I just began talking and spreading the message to receptive ears, and then there was an explosion. So
Well, we're going to.
We're proud. I have an email list, but those people wanted to learn about silver. I don't know if they want to learn about all this stuff. And I've gotten some positive feedback, a lot of negative feedback. I don't know.
Well,
I want to expand the audience beyond the 50,000 people on my email list.
What kind of negative feedback have you gotten? I mean, I get my share of hate mail too, but just curious.
Well, there are all sorts of plants in the medical establishment that will, kick and scream to the death over this kind of information. So,
right.
And it also runs up against, in the silver and gold world, people who've gone to college and paid for a $500,000 education that teaches them that gold is a barbarous relic. They don't want to hear it about the message about gold. They've been overeducated. Well, we have a million doctors in this country. They don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear that that they're blind guides.
Right.
Given blinded information, and they're hurting people, and that they're killing an average of one person a year. They don't want to hear that. So, the slander comes.
That would be a bitter pill to swallow. It really would. I can.
Yeah, you're attacking the establishment. And it's not just the doctors. They have families and cousins and nurses. There's way more nurses than doctors. They're all in it too. I dated a nurse for 3 years. She was hooked on all sorts of different prescriptions. It was sad.
Wow. I know our topic today was health, but just briefly before I let you go here, because I know you got things you got to get after. We had a nice run up
on the show for a long time. We've run from 10 to almost. We've been an hour and 45 minutes talking.
Yeah, I know. And that's what I'm saying. This is I can't wait to get this uploaded to YouTube and to our Google Plus page, so that people who weren't able to attend the show live today will have an opportunity for weeks, years to come to share in your journey and to learn, and hopefully it'll be a starting point for them to do their own research and to start managing their own health in a more mindful manner. But as we part today, and hopefully this won't be our last conversation by any stretch, but do you have any comments on gold and silver? I mean, we just ran up we almost cracked 1,300 on gold, and now we've had a pretty good drawdown. I mean, the whole market sold off today. I thought it was going to happen yesterday with the Comey testimony, but the sell-off came today. We just fell through our trigger that we emailed to our clients last night on the S&P to sell. Well, first we said buy 24.33, and that ran up 10 points. Then we said sell 24.21 if we get there. And gosh, just in the last few minutes we've been talking, the S&P has dropped to 24.12 and a half. So now let me take a look at gold just real quick. Any thoughts on the pullback? I mean, do you think we'll get over 1,300 anytime in the near future?
I have always thought that silver would be over $500 an ounce before 1% of U.S. money began to chase it. And there's more money in the world than just United States money. But it's hard for the rest of the world to buy silver. They don't have the legacy of coin shops that exist in the United States. They don't have the legacy of using silver as money. In Europe, is it like a basket case because of the value-added tax? It's weird. It's so rare, it's hard to get it. If it's so rare that it's hard to get it, it's hard for people to push the price up. There's all sorts of weird bottlenecks. So those bottlenecks need to get removed, and I hope that I had positioned myself to hopefully widen some of the bottlenecks by starting a mint. I failed. I jumped into business way too soon. Before there was a mass of people trying to get into it. I did prove a couple things, of course, that I think I proved Pertinent is engaged in massive fraud because they have horrible delivery times that people have reported. Any business, bullion business that has a delivery time problem more than a week is engaging in fraud, in my view, and they're selling what they don't have. And there's a lot of such charlatans in the business. So if you ever try to order silver and it takes more than a week, find another dealer.
Well, my friend who
they should be able to put silver in them. If you buy silver, they should be able to put it into the mail the same day, and it should get there within about 3 or 4 days, anywhere across the country. That's the
the last time my friend ordered silver, it took 2 weeks plus for it to come UPS.
That's probably because it got shipped 3 times. Maybe it got shipped from one person to the second person, and then finally to the third dealer, and then they shipped to the customer or something.
It was bought through
one of the second dealers.
It was bought through a coin shop, so I don't know if that has any relevance to it or not.
Coin shops are fine, but ask them if they have it in stock next time, or ask what they do have in stock, and then buy from what they have in stock, and you'll get it a lot sooner. Or don't buy from a person who takes 2 weeks. There were, on occasion, I would have to order silver from another dealer. Like if somebody's going to buy $300,000 worth, I didn't have that in my shop. I barely had, $1 million in inventory. So I don't have $300,000 of one product. $1 million in inventory in a silver shop gives you about $100,000 of 10 different products. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So there's not too many millionaires in the bullion trading business. A lot of them are mom and pop shops that have next to nothing. So, and then there's a lot of big dealers out there who are floating on customer money. In our biggest month, we did $5 million in trades. If you're taking 2 months to deliver, that's basically a big company floating on $10 million with customer credit, and those guys always go belly under. Some of them go belly under. I think it's about every 2 to 3 years. Somebody goes under, and it's like $100 million bankruptcy in the silver and gold world. People should wake up. Stop ordering from guys who take a month to deliver. That's ridiculous. Either they have it or they don't. If they don't have it, they shouldn't be selling it. And if they don't have it, you shouldn't be buying it for them. Buy it from the guys who have it. It's pretty basic.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
So where's the price going? Here's the funny thing about silver. The silver market is so tiny. Investors are only buying maybe 30 to 100 million ounces of silver every year. But the silver market mines, they produce 1,000 million ounces. So the market's 10 times as big. So silver investors are only a tenth or 10% of the market. So if silver investors are going to drive the price, they need to get to 20, 30, 40% of the market. They need to be buying, multiple times more than they are right now to really drive things. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. It does.
Yeah. So prices in the mean term can be basically dictated by the bankers. And when the bankers dictate the price, it creates all sorts of bottlenecks because how does it work? Price fixing creates shortages. That happens all the time in the silver market. They knock the price down, investors go nuts, try to buy it, the shelves get cleaned out, and then you can't get it anymore. And because it's like communist Russia, it runs out. If you engage in price fixing in anything, it's just going to run out. That's what happens in the silver market. So that's why you have these horrible delays, because some dealers are like, well, I can still get silver, I just got to get it off the COMEX or whatever. Yeah, but you can't get it off the COMEX for 30 days or 60 days. That's what creates these horrible delivery problems. The COMEX is a totally fraudulent market. Who wants to buy silver for 30 to 60 days delivery? That's stupid. It's a commodity. You should either have it or you don't. If you don't have it, you shouldn't be selling it.
Yeah,
the whole theory of commodities in futures contracts is to pre-sell your harvest. There's no set harvest in the mining industry. All mines pretty much produce it 24/7 on the clock. There's no mining season. There's no need for a futures contract in silver and gold except for to manipulate the prices.
And that's exactly what it's done. If it were, people buy shares in GLD and SLV, and they're convinced by somebody that they actually own silver or gold, or that a certain percentage of their portfolio is invested in silver and gold. And on paper it is, and as a trading vehicle, I suppose it's okay. But I mean, people have been fooled into believing that buying shares in these ETFs, just as one example, means they own gold and silver, and it's nothing could be further from the truth. It says it right in the prospectus.
You know how in America we have a rising communist class who followed Bernie Sanders, and then we have a capitalist class, people who understand basics of economics, understand that it's either capitalism or death.
Yeah.
Among the capitalists, a lot of the people who are capitalists believe that banking should be free to practice banking. In my view, banking is like slavery. I think I went over that. But I touched upon something that was really interesting. I said price fixing. I said that future contracts are like price fixing. Almost everybody who has a capitalist understanding knows that you can't engage in price fixing, top-down control, because that's market manipulation. But there are a lot of capitalists out there who don't understand that futures contracts is price fixing. Of course it's price fixing. One of these days, people may well wake up to understand that futures contract trading is no different than price fixing and should be banned. It should be banned. It should be banned just as slavery is banned. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The first time I heard the term, and what was the big scandal a few years ago about the price fixing? And they even call it on TV. They say, today the London gold fix was such and such. And I'm like, well, wait a minute.
They even call it the
price.
We all know the price fixing doesn't work, but they call it a fix. It's like, why don't people wake up? I don't understand it.
Well, I think by and large, it's
people aren't waking up because
education or understanding.
Well, and who's educating us? Who's educating us? The people who are educating us is basically the government that fund the university, and it's the money printers who are educating us all. That's why we're not waking up. It's hard to figure out these things. But in the age of the internet, more and more people should discover these things. It's hard to put a lid on the truth when more and more people are gaining their voices and getting their brains back. So, maybe I need to preach iodine for a while.
Well, you've certainly opened my mind and my eyes to an awful lot today, as well as members of the audience and those who will listen to this in the future. So I can't thank you enough for taking time to come on the show today and share all of this information with us. And I look very forward to speaking with you again next week if you're available.
Thank you so much for honoring the work I've done and the knowledge I've gained, and giving me a platform to come here. That was I feel really good about the interview and coming here today and being on the show. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, my pleasure. And as soon as I have it uploaded today, I'll be sure and shoot you over a link. It'll be in the same place as last week, but I'll send you a link. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you so much.
Have a great weekend.
All right. You too. See you next week.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jason Hommel, he really opened up and shared his life and his story and all that he's been through. And, that kind of honesty and truth is so rare to find in the world today. I mean, he kind of really bared his soul, and that takes something real special. And so I'm thankful that I've known of him for years. And again, if you do a little research, you'll see that in his heyday, he was one of the big names in the world of silver and silver commentary. And Mark, if you go to his website, there's a quote by Marc Faber. Let's see, do I still have it up here? I think I might. Marc Faber, in an interview with David Morgan, said the three smartest guys in the room when it comes to silver are Ted Butler, Dave Morgan, and Jason Hommel. Go to his Facebook page, because the Facebook page will also give you links to the other websites, silverstockreport.com and Fixed Joint Pain, and also he has a website, BibleProphecy.org. And on the Silver Stock Report website, there is a section dedicated to biblical capitalism, and another section called Famous Money Quotes, The History of Money, Silver's Wealth. All very interesting stuff. Now, the S&P last night for the September contract, we had suggested being a buyer at 24.33. We ran up 10 points. That's $50 per point. So that's $500 per contract available. We also suggested selling 24.21 if that became a possibility, and it did. Just in the last hour here, from 21 we dropped down to 1250. So if we round that up to 1300, that would be, well, actually it's 8.5 points is what it is. And I put the link to his Facebook page in the chat box. And on the Dow, our suggestion last night in the email was, oh, that's the S&P, here's the Dow. To consider buying 211.70, ran up 88 points, and the sell side on that's 100 points lower at 210.70. So we're already rebounding off the weekly trading zone for the June contract. People always, ask, oh, so we're rolling over, so do you put out new weekly trading zones? And the amazing thing is that when you roll from one contract to the next, as you can see, we're in the U contract. These are the zones for the June contract. Look what happened. Price just, it spiked it, but this zone held as support. And if you go back through the history of the zones, week after week, month after month, year after year, you'll see the same kind of thing. Now, I believe Michael said that today was the big agricultural report, the WASDE. And of course, we lay low in front of those type of news events. But often you see some pretty wild action on the WASDE. This is a very, very quiet WASDE report today. On soybeans last night, we suggested being a buyer at 9.42, which would be right there, and we put in a high at 9.44. So exactly 2 points times $50 per point. Of course, we never get out at the swing high or swing low because we trail our stop. And on the sell side, what did we have? 933. So the swing low here was 934. So there was no trigger there. And on this move, because this was when the WASDE came out, based on what we teach and preach, is anytime there's a major economic news event. I mean, this is to the world of agriculture what the Fed announcement is to the stock market and to the financial world. And so we would say lay low below this. So this is a trade that we would have missed out on. And it looks like it wants to rebound and go higher, but it's almost time for beans to close shop for the day. That market closes early. Okay. So we covered the S&P, covered the Dow, covered the beans. Look at the bonds. Okay. Now we roll the bonds forward. You'll notice as the indices gapped lower in the open last night, bonds gapped higher. So let's find 2000. So in bonds, consider selling 154.04. Sell 154.04. And we've just reached back up to that level again. Okay, the swing low. There's 32 ticks to a point. So from let's see. So we got 13 plus 4. So that's 17 ticks. So the market made 17 ticks available at 31.25 per tick. And of course, if you're trailing your stop, then probably in this candle right here is where you get taken out with profit. And important prices, important areas are almost always tested. So there's a possibility that we'll see a possibility that we could see a drop before the close. Okay, it's going to depend on what the indices do. Okay, let's look at gold real quick. The guys had asked me to do zones on gold this week, so I did that to oblige the partners. It was last week in the workshop. They said, "How about?" And I said, "Well, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it for a week. It's just that it's very time consuming. So, you know, guys, if you want me to permanently, or at least until the Russell moves back to the CME, if you want me to do gold instead of the Russell, I guess I could do that." Going from zone to zone to zone. Zones are an area. I mean, sometimes we hit it to the tick and bounce, and then sometimes we, you know, don't quite make it by a tick or overshoot it by a couple ticks. The zones go out to the partners Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. Eastern. And 75, 76 was not our lowest zone for the week, but we tagged it right there yesterday. And then we almost made it down to the next zone, 65, 66. The swing low here was 66.70. So I missed that by 7 ticks. See the consolidation at the zone. And selling 76. This drop was good for $900 per contract. And the NQ, oh man, I don't know that I've ever, well, I'm sure I have, yeah. Okay. On the NQ last night, an email said to consider buying 58.92, which would be right here. And of course the vertical line, that just represents when the alert went out, when the email went out. 58.92. And so we had a couple of swing high. This one swung up to, where did it make it up to? $59.03. So that would be 11 ticks, or 11 points at $20 per point. And then 92, we back below the trigger, and up we go again. Got out to 07. So that would be 15 times $20 per contract. Then this incredible sell-off. Wow. Our sell signal was 58.76. Okay. Goodness gracious. We're going to have to shrink this to get it all on the screen. What a route. Okay. Swing low is 56.70. So 876 minus 669. $207 points. $207 points times $20 per point. Equals $4,140 per contract available. Now, again, you're not going to walk away with all of that because you're going to trail a stop, and as price pulls back along the way, certainly in here somewhere, you're going to get stopped out with whatever you get stopped out with, based on how closely you're trailing your stop. Now, when you have a runaway like this, of course, you can always throw the indicators on there. To give you a little bit of guidance. You can try to throw the indicators on there. Oh, I hope I didn't freeze my chart up. Come on, you can do it. Okay. Are they going to show up or not? I just rebooted a day ago. And there they are. Okay, when the step line gets on the other side of the MA1 and you get a green candle closing above the step line, that's the indicator signal to exit the trade. But as you can see, on something like this, I mean, well, number one, we have a rule of thumb that says anytime you make $1,000 per contract in one instrument in one day, take your money and put the mouse away. So, yeah, this thing dropped $4,100. I don't think I would be waiting for a sell signal from the indicators, because by the time they catch up to price, because this happened, you know, so quickly, you're going to... Now, that doesn't mean that there's not another leg down to this. I mean, we've had a nice retracement, but just as in a healthy uptrend, you're going to have pullbacks, okay? In a sell-off, you're going to have leg, retrace, and yes, there potentially is another leg yet to come. For anyone to say that, well, this is definitely the bottom, and you're bolder than I am. Okay, after the NQ, there's Crude, which compared to all the other markets looks pretty tame, I must say. Okay, on Crude, consider buying 45.85. That barely got hit. No, it got hit right there. $45.85. And there's a swing high of 46.18. So that's it's $330 per contract available. Okay. And the sell side on Crude, 45.35. Oh, that was just enough to get you in trouble. That's if you took the trade. Remember, we never risk more than $300 on a Concierge Trade Alert. $45.35. Yeah, so you know, if you took it, if you didn't walk away, then you certainly got yourself stopped out. And by the way, that's the truth about trading. Stops happen. Oh, you know, Crude. What was our lowest weekly zone? Our lowest weekly zone. We had a zone at 47. I have the right week here. Yeah. 47.55.60, and then 47.05. It loaded the wrong platform, and so I can't flip the numbers over the way I normally do. So there was a zone there. Below that was 46.25. slash 46.30. Below that was 44.50 slash 55, and I don't think that ever came into play this week. Nope, it did not. So if we go back to the Sunday night Globex Open, price ran up Monday morning, almost made it to the zone, reversed, came back down to the zone, went through it, found support at this zone, back up to the zone, did some consolidating, back down to the zone, up to the zone, down to the zone. Didn't quite make it back up there. Then we broke out and never could quite make that 48.50. Oh wait, hold on, 47.55 slash 60. The next zone up is actually 48.15. Slash 48.20. Come on. Now let's see what that. Okay, so we actually spiked above that a little bit on 2 occasions. And the lowest zone, 44.50, I don't think we're going to see that this week. So we had a big gap between 44.50 and 46.25, and that's where we've been trading pretty much all day. Okay, so just satisfying my curiosity on the zones. Now remember, we talked about bonds, important prices, important areas, almost always tested, and bonds came back up, and it looks like they want to put in another move to the downside. So the last market for the day and for the week is the Russell 1617. The next zone above that was 24.25, and the highest zone for the week was 46. So that 25-26 zone just got ran right through. Shape. That happens too. So there's that. The email said to consider buying the Russell at 14.11. So we find 14.11. Right here. Keep in mind the Russell doesn't open at 6 with the rest of the markets. Wait, yes it does. So this thing triggered right as soon as it had barely left my inbox when this triggered, and it never came back to test. So you might have missed this one. By 14.11. And so we consolidated inside of this zone for quite a while, and then we finally put in a high up at 35.20. So 35 minus 11 times $50 per point gives us $1,200 per contract available. That's if you got out at the very swing high, which I don't know how you do that. $1,200 per contract available. But if you learn, teach me. $1,200 per contract available. Okay. Sell side on the Russell. Don't foresee us getting there today, but if we were, it's down at 1406. Okay. Well, guys, this show has run incredibly long, and I appreciate you hanging out, but we're gonna call it a day, call it a week. It is the weekend, and so the law at CFRN says you have to spend some quality time with your family. Of course, I'll see you all in church on Sunday. If you've not taken the free trial, go to our homepage or go to apply.cfrn.net and spend the next week with us in the live training room. You can use one of the platforms that our indicators works on. You can download a demo of that, download the indicators themselves, learn our strategy, trade alongside with Michael, learn what we do, how we do it, and then by this time next Friday you can make a well-informed decision as to whether or not what we do is right for you. We believe in aggressive risk management. It's certainly no get-rich-quick scheme. It's some call it a slow boat to China. But the good news is, over the horizon, there is a China. Again, thanks so much for tuning in today. Whoever you are, wherever you are, may God continue to richly bless you with His mercy and with His grace. And I'll see you at the bell.
Remember this, there is no greater return on investment than to see a human life changed and given hope. As always, pray hard and trade safe. Any financial information discussed on this show is simply the opinion of our host, Dwayne Reeves, his co-hosts, and guests. To learn more about trading Emini Futures or to take a 1-week free trial in our live trading room, call 1-866-928-3310. 866-928-3310. Information discussed on this radio program should not be construed as a recommendation to buy or sell any security. Always do your own due diligence and consult with a licensed securities broker or financial planner before making any investment decision.